We did it, what is it, iFix? Yeah, and they did a good job.
I'd like to call this meeting to order. Our first order of business is to go into closed meeting. Be it resolved, the Board of Supervisors hereby enters into closed meeting for the purpose of discussing the following. Section 2.23711, discussion, consideration, or interviews of prospective candidates for employment, assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salaries, discipline, or resignation of specific officers, appointees, or employees of any public body. 2 items, adjustment and appeals board and alcohol safety action program. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Mr. Gabriel?
Aye.
Chair Brown?
Aye.
7 ayes.
We're in closed meeting. Accept me.
Could you just give me what the cars they run
I
up?
thought they did this new one, but
That's what the car ran
that's
up.
the original.
That's right.
They held up well, don't they?
Yeah. Look at that. What a shame. They tore out that much of the budget. We ought to be able to eliminate. You can see that my budget was in the middle of the
Well, that's what they said.
That's good.
Was out on the road and your budget was
Literally
See
got
right here?
road worn.
There it is. Did you see the tires that ran
I
over?
just thought you were working really hard on it.
Okay.
Need a motion to go out of closed meeting.
Motion.
Then a second.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to go out of closed meeting. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Mr. Gabriel?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Chair Brown?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Certification of closed meeting. Whereas the Board of Supervisors of Montgomery County has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act. And whereas Section 2.23711 of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by the board that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Supervisors of Montgomery County, Virginia hereby certifies that, to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting to which the certification resolution applies, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the board. Motion? Motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second for certification of our closed meeting. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Mr. Tuck?
For a portion of it, I had to step out, and the reason I stepped out for a portion of the closed session was I'm currently on the BASAP board. I'm the chairman of that board and thought it was inappropriate for me to then be appointing someone to that board, and so I left for that portion.
Mr. Gabriel?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Chair Brown?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Now, next order of business is our invocation. This is a period where the board observes a minute of silence to reflect on the business at hand. And after we observe that moment of silence, you know what's going to happen, Mary? You're going to lead us in the pledge. I'm back. Oh, you're back. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. After we observe the moment of silence, we'll be led in the pledge by Mr. Meadows, our county administrator.
Let us pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our board meeting for March 23rd. And our first order of business is presentation, recognitions, or awards. And I think I believe we will have our Montgomery County Treasurer, Mr. Richard Shelton, with us today, and he will make a presentation on proposed proration of personal property taxes. Welcome, Richard.
Good evening. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak to you this evening on proration. On my first slide, of course, is just showing why I'm here tonight. Again, I appreciate the opportunity for you to listen to my reasons on proration. Proration for personal property taxes is being considered to start on January 1st, 2016. Over the past several weeks, I have spoken with many localities throughout Virginia concerning proration of personal property. It is my recommendation, and with these findings, that proration would not be a wise choice for Montgomery County. Please consider the following facts before making your decision. The proposed 2016 budget did not recommend any additional positions. I found on talking about proration, to implement proration for a county the size of Montgomery County, which is 96,000 citizens, not including 30,000 plus students at Virginia Tech, would require a staffing increase. Of what I had found, that it would be a need for 4 full-time positions. 2 positions would be for the Commissioner of the Revenue, and 2 would be for the Treasurer's Office. If you consider the salary, starting salary roughly would be $30,000 per employee, which equals $120,000, then does not include benefits and the training time that would be needed to implement a new system. Additional money appropriated for interest expense on refunds. When a vehicle is assessed improperly, we charge our customers 10% for late payments. We also have to give back 10% on something that has been abated and has been wrongly assessed to begin with. With the 4 new employees, there will be new computers and printers that would need to be purchased for each of these employees. Printing costs, such as the printers itself, toners, paper, and envelopes, would also be another cost. When we would send out individual bills to a customer, we would send them out at the full rate of the U.S. Postal Service. There would be NADA charges associated with assessment information. We are a Munis user. The Munis software would need to be added. Support fees would be a cost to the county. The last meeting of the board, it was mentioned about could IT help with implementation or questions, and IT is 1 or 2 short now, and the answer was that probably that could not be helped through the IT department. And then with any new system there would be plenty of training that would go along with that. Proration impact on supplement billing. Commissioner's office has numerous steps to add each vehicle. These are some of the things that the Treasurer's office would be responsible for. The Treasurer's office has to verify and change due dates if needed. Generate accounts receivable. Generate reports and verify accuracy. Create a bill print file. Set preamble dates to print on bills. This would be the due dates and the penalty and interest dates. We would then print the bills in-house, and the mailing would be at the full postal rate. We send out our bulk bills twice a year. Real estate, of course, twice. Personal property once. We use an outside vendor and we receive a bulk rate. On supplement billing, we would receive numerous calls, emails, and respond to the correspondence for each bill. We would have a lot of calls. People want to know, what is this supplemental bill? Why did I receive it? Well, when is it due? Then we would have to transfer calls concerning assessments to the Commissioner's office. When a supplemental bill would be created, we'd have to manually generate a delinquent notice if not paid by the due date. A supplemental bill can be several things. Supplemental bill can actually be if a vehicle was missed in the assessment, it could be sent out a bill, once again, called a supplemental. But if the county went to proration, there'd be numerous supplemental bills because cars are bought, sold, and traded every day. Proration impact on abatements. An abatement is a credit, we call it abatements. What we'd have to do is review account history to verify that abatements are posted correctly and that any amount due has correct penalty and interest. Then we need to determine if a credit is a result of an abatement. A credit sometimes is for an overpayment, but in case of an abatement. Refund processing. Determine overpayment amount for refund. Now, I want you to remember these things that I'm listing are through the Treasurer's office, our workload. I'm not speaking for any other office but our own. Determine if credit is to be refunded or applied to other bills, and check for any delinquencies by multi-source methods of owner, co-owner. Owner, co-owner. It's individuals that own a vehicle by themselves. There's other individuals, such as myself, that my wife and I were the co-owners of each of our vehicles. Some co-owners are maybe a dad for a son, or a mother for a daughter, or a friend for a friend. It's a lot of different co-ownerships that could be out there. We'd check by name, and then we would check by social security numbers to do a double check. Just think of all the time all this would consume for just one search alone. Then we would manually calculate interest expense on refunds. I had said earlier that if we charge people 10% interest, we also have to give back 10% interest. And to manually calculate that, is we have to determine the amount of days, months, or maybe a year or two that a vehicle was not assessed properly, and now we have to give back the money they have paid the county. Each individual refund invoice for the finance department. Now it's not only the commissioner's office that's been involved, the treasurer's office involved, but now we have another department, the finance department, that they would do the printing of the checks. They would include a letter of explanation, and then they would mail these refund checks to the individual. 3 offices. Then once a customer, taxpayer, would receive a refund, certainly we all like to get refunds in the mail, government refunds, they would be calling. They'd say, why did I receive a refund? We have a lot of customers that will call right now about refund checks. They want to know why, and if they really can cash that check. Proration impact on delinquent notices and collection actions. A delinquent notice must be manually created and mailed for any supplemental bill before collection actions can be taken. We're required by the state of Virginia codes to send out first the regular bill, and then once we send out the regular bill, if it's not paid by the due date, then we will send out a delinquent notice. When we send out a massive delinquent notice in January after our December billing, basically at that time it's a reminder that personal property taxes are still owed. Yes, they're delinquent, but we will give them normally to the end of February the following year to make payment. Of course, at that time, a 10% late penalty has already been added, and interest per day at 10% per annum has been added to their bill. Proration, as I said, impacts delinquent notices and collection actions. We do set-off debt, and set-off debt will need to be filed more frequently. Set-off debt is that when we attach an action against a taxpayer, customer, resident, however you like to describe a resident of Montgomery County, attaches to their Virginia income tax refund. If we can get there, it will help pay, if not always pay, their delinquent taxes. We are a county that does many different actions. We do collections actions such as lien and demands, DMV stops, distress levies, warrant and debt, and set-off debt that I just described. Claims will need to be adjusted repeatedly due to supplements and abatements. If I have an action on someone, if their employer, let's say they owe Montgomery County $1,000, we find that one of their vehicles was assessed improperly, and a $200 credit is given to that customer. On a wage lien, then they'll take out the whole $1,000 unless we tell them now we have a $200 credit. That wage lien is now $800. We would have to constantly do updates and track all the actions that we have out there. We do wage liens, we freeze bank accounts, we do DMV stops. A DMV stop is where a customer owes us personal property taxes. We put a freeze on their tags so they cannot renew their tags until their personal property is paid. It also can affect their driver's license if their driver's license runs out during the period that we have a DMV stop and a DMV stop that has not been paid. This would increase our workload in the areas, will impact the time our office can devote to delinquent accounts and decrease collections. In 2014, we collected $1.5 million from delinquent actions. This $1.5 million is not from the delinquent notices that we send out. This $1.5 million is collected through the reasons I gave above and the different collection actions that we do. Not all counties, cities, towns do all these delinquent actions, but we have chosen to do all these actions to collect taxes due for Montgomery County. Proration impact with non-prorated localities. Only half of Virginia localities prorate. Impacts the localities nearby that do not prorate. I have called around and checked, and these are some of the counties, our neighboring counties, that do not prorate. You'll see the numbers are vast. We have Craig County, Giles County, Floyd County, Pulaski County, and Wythe County. They do not prorate. The towns of Pulaski, Dublin, Floyd, and Wytheville and Narrows do not prorate as well. And the city of Radford does not prorate. Then we have an impact that would affect the town of Christiansburg. Impacts the town of Christiansburg if we prorate and they do not. Because assessment information the town receives from the county is based on January 1st ownership. Proration will make our workload more complicated and require more interaction with our office or our offices, especially for residents assessed with town and county taxes. It's a problem now. It'll be a huge problem if that took place. Proration impact on Montgomery County taxpayers. Taxpayer will not understand why they are receiving bills outside normal due dates. If they go and buy a car today, within the next month, they will probably receive a new bill. They've never received a bill before for personal property, automobile in April before, May, June, July, or whatever it would be. They would not understand why this has never happened before. The town of Christiansburg residents will be billed for vehicles owned January 1st, but county residents can have multi-billing and abatements throughout the year, causing added confusion. Right now, it's a high mileage discount. A high mileage car now would be impacted. How it be impacted? I don't know. Also, the adjustment of motor vehicle license fee and its impact on billing. That would be very hard under proration to add a motor vehicle license fee to a new vehicle purchased, a newer used car purchased. It'd be almost impossible to do that. Every taxpayer who owns a vehicle and receives personal property tax relief will see a tax increase because the tax relief percentage will decrease due to added vehicle values. In 2014, that used to be called PPTRA, Personal Property Tax Relief Act, was changed, and the county received to be split 44.65%. We received a blank, not a blank check, but a check for $4.7 million annually to be distributed out to those who qualify, have the vehicles that qualify in Montgomery County. It goes on the value of their vehicle. Some cars are worth $1,000. They may be as low as $300. But from $1,000 to $20,000, they would get some type of tax relief through PPTR, which is known as today. Some localities that I checked with, because of proration, they've had to go to 2 times a year billing. That would be added expense. Years ago, when we dropped the DMV, we went to the motor vehicle license fee instead of the decals. When we went away from the decals, the processing, and one extra billing saved the county $25,000. So today, with increase in postage going to possibly 2 billings per year, it would be additional cost to the county. Other prorating localities input. These are counties or cities, localities that I've talked to. I've talked to Roanoke City and Roanoke County. Many times, penalty and interest are waived as a result of errors in processing. If it's an error, we can't charge them penalty and interest. Constant changes with billing and abatements. It's changes every day. City of Newport News sends corrected bills daily. Culpeper County, supplement billing will increase by a factor of 4 or 5 times. Tax refunds will increase by 10 times. I don't know what the impact would be on Montgomery County. Culpeper County is less than half the size of Montgomery County, and this is what they said takes place with our county. 4 or 5 times, once again, a supplement billing and refunds up to 10 times. Spotsylvania County, they said, relies heavily on DMV records, and Montgomery County would have to rely upon their records. Goochland County, a couple years ago, implemented proration. This is what was said. It's a huge hassle to implement. The cost of manpower, printing, postage versus abatements and supplements, it appears to break even. We do not like it. It's a nightmare. And then York County told me that it has high costs and workloads. In conclusion, January 1st ownership or assessment of personal property has worked for Montgomery County in the past, and I recommend keeping our current system in place. Going to proration would only grow government. Both offices would need at least, and I emphasize at least, 2 new permanent full-time employees, not just for the implementation of proration, but for the future. The workload would grow tenfold or more. I'll have someone else be speaking on proration as soon as I'm through as part of my presentation tonight. The additional costs for supplement billing, abatements, refunds, new software, support fees, training, additional printing, postage costs, and other items cannot be estimated at this time. On my slide presentation, said Roanoke City has up to 400 supplemental bills per week. I just found out a few moments ago that there was a typo, and it's per day. in Roanoke County has up to 500 supplemental bills per week. Roanoke City says it's a year-round building. There are many unknown factors included how well will it work in Munis. Our Munis system, we were a test model for Munis when Montgomery County decided to look into Munis approximately 15 years ago. The first 3 localities that tested Munis was, of course, Montgomery County, Henry County, and the city of Martinsville. Some things that are in our Munis system today are not in other systems that was implemented later. What works for one locality may not work for Montgomery County. There's numerous systems that produce information. Some are large enough to have IT implement this. Some use a system called Bright. We use a system called Munis, and on it goes. I have talked with treasurers of similar-sized localities such as Roanoke City, Roanoke County, and many other localities throughout the state, including our adjacent towns, counties, and cities. The ones that I had talked to, not that I wanted this answer, but what was given to me, all are against proration, including those that already use proration. Montgomery County's current tax collection rate is one of the best in the Commonwealth of Virginia. To keep it this way, we need not to go to proration. Please do not jeopardize our collections by implementing proration for a few dissatisfied taxpayers. The majority of personal property taxes collected are paid by the permanent residents of Montgomery County. The ones that come and go more often may be tech students or transit workers that are in and out of our county. Taxpayers will have a personal property tax increase with proration because the percentage of personal property tax relief will be less. For more than 11 years, I've had the privilege to serve Montgomery County as treasurer. The present board and present county administrator has always trusted my judgments in collection of taxes and the actions needed to collect them. I'd like to also say past boards and past administrators have done the same thing, have relied upon my judgment of collection. When making your decision, I ask that you carefully consider the facts presented and my recommendation that proration is not a wise choice for Montgomery County. And adding to my presentation tonight, as part of my presentation on proration, I would like to introduce to you the treasurer of Roanoke City, which is Evelyn Powers. She has been the treasurer of Roanoke City since 2004. Roanoke City has prorated for 27 years and is similar in size and population as Montgomery County. Roanoke City's treasurer and commissioner's office each, and I emphasize each, have a staff of 16. So it's 16 in each office plus a commissioner, and a treasurer makes 17 in each office. Evelyn has volunteered to speak to you this evening about many things you should consider before making your decision on proration for Montgomery County. Please listen carefully to her based on her knowledge and experience with proration. Thank you for my part of the presentation. Evelyn? Thank you.
Thank you very much for allowing me to be here in your wonderful county. My mother used to live in Montgomery County 16 years ago, so I got to come up here a lot and enjoy your beautiful county. I won't take a lot of your time, but I felt like I needed to come up here and give you some of the background that we in Roanoke City have with proration. Now, I've been with the city for 34 years, so prior to being the treasurer, I worked in our internal audit department. So I can remember the days of working on the audits when we did not prorate, and I can certainly tell you things were much easier. But everything Richard has told you is absolutely true about proration. We have, our tax rate is $3.45. We send out, we're getting ready in the next month to send out 63,000 bills. The minute those bills hit the street, we get probably 5 and 6 trays returned to us as returned mail. And during that time, there's no way, we don't have time to work any of those address changes while that period, that these next 2.5 months occur. But we will have to send out, as Richard told you, probably anywhere from 300 to 400 bills, additional bills a day for the next 2.5 months. We have what we call our problem box, and I get to be the joyous one that gets to work that box. But many people will look at their bills and they're going to say, I don't have this car anymore. Now, they don't pay a lot of attention to look over there to see that our commissioner has already made the adjustment. So there's so much information you have to put on this bill, they just don't see that we've already made the adjustment. So as I told you, everything goes in the problem box, and we have to look at those very carefully, because if the adjustment has already been made, then we go ahead and process that bill. But then what we have to do is the next day, after it updates tonight, then tomorrow we have to send that taxpayer out an adjusted bill with a form letter that says your bill was already adjusted, blah, blah, blah. So, you know, then we have to wait on them to send back another bill. There's so many variables to personal property proration that I would have to be here till midnight to tell you all of them. But everything that Mr. Shelton has said to you is absolutely true. It takes my entire office for the next 2.5 months. We basically shut down, and the only thing we work on is personal property. And then we have to work overtime, because then we have to get, you know, dog tags in and everything else posted. So I spend my budget, I don't have a lot, I have $1,700 in overtime, which you can see is not a lot of money for the size of Roanoke, but we use every bit of that. After that, it's myself, my chief deputy, and my collector, my collection supervisor, who I don't have to pay overtime to, that has to do any of the overtime to get it done. This year, this next coming year's budget, I've had to ask for another part-time person to work full-time, a full-time, part-time person, just to help us get through, because it's just, we can't meet the demands of the personal property. You'll have many phone calls. People can't get through, and these people will call every department in the city trying to get through to the treasurer and the commissioner. We get many complaints. Why do you not answer the phone? It's just a huge nightmare. You'll get lots of businesses that are going to call you because they're going to get their bill, and they're not going to understand why, you know, there's a bill, why they've got the same vehicle on there twice. But it may be that, you know, if they had any delinquencies, then that shows up on the bill. So you have to explain that. Lease companies, that is a huge nightmare for us. They all call back and they want to know, they need to know the breakdown of the taxes per vehicle. So there's just so many variables to this, but it will definitely increase your workload in both offices. So you will definitely need more staff, especially if you really take serious customer service to your taxpayers. If you don't increase your staff, there's no way you'll be able to get it all done. And then the taxpayers, they demand service. So they're going to want to know why you can't get it done. One of the worst nightmares for us is when Richard's talking to you about due dates, when we send out our bills, if it has delinquencies on there, or you've purchased a vehicle in April or May, you can have as many as 2 or 3 different due dates on each bill. It is a huge nightmare, again, to try to explain to somebody why you're getting a bill that has 2 or 3 due dates on it. The other situation that happens is that once you get through the madness and then you're trying to play catch up, when people go buy a new car today, and I'm sure many of you, if you've purchased a new car, the dealers are going to tell you, oh, I'm going to charge you this processing fee and we're going to take care of your taxes. Well, when the taxpayer hears that, all they think is, oh, they're going to take care of the taxes. They think these dealers are going to call the localities. That is the only thing those dealers do, is take care of your DMV. They do not call, fax, or send anything to the localities. So during our busy time, you know, we don't have time to get all the drops and the adds and the deletes done to the DMV. We get caught up on that after the mass billing. So now once those bills go out, guess what? You just got a bill that says you have a late filing penalty because you didn't contact the commissioner, and oh, by the way, it's past 60 days. The city of Roanoke has 30 days to call the commissioner, 60 days to pay. So now you have a bill with a due date of last week with a 10% late filing penalty and a 10% late payment penalty. It is not happy days at the city of Roanoke when those calls start coming in. So I just tell you to please, please consider this very carefully before you make this decision to do this. I'm happy to answer any questions that any of you might have.
Questions, comments from board members? Ms. Biggs?
Well, if it's such a problem in Roanoke City, why do they keep having it?
Well, that's a good question. We just now, our city manager has started this, well, since he's been there, it's called Budget for Outcomes. So as we do our budget, we do our budget based on each, like, what does it cost us to do personal property? What does it cost us to do real estate? We're starting to see the trend of that proration cost us a lot of money. So our technology department right now is in the, we're implementing a new personal property system. As soon as that is over with, we're going to start making enhancements to personal property. Now, do I think they'll change proration? Not for the city. I mean, it does bring in more money. But one thing we are going to look at doing is hopefully get a supplemental billing period. I don't know if that'll be a monthly supplemental period. We're just now discussing that, what we want it to look like. But we have got to do something to make it less confusing for our taxpayers and our businesses.
So it brings in more money to the city than if they didn't do it?
Well, you know, in real dollars, yes, it brings in. But if you really look at the time that it cost us to do it, I would say we maybe break even. So, and those are the type of things we're going to have to start looking at as we move forward with this. I mean, one of the things we've talked about that we wish the state would mandate to every locality that personal property is done this way and everybody in the state does it that way. There's so many people that get confused. We have a lot of people that move to the city of Roanoke that are from other states that don't pay personal property. And so they're the ones that really get hit with these bills because they don't call us and tell us they're here. We find out about them months down the road. And they're stuck. They've got to pay that 10% late filing penalty and a 10% late payment penalty.
Thank you.
When we had a presentation from Helen, she talked about needing one additional employee. Have you coordinated with her, and is it that changed and is now that she's going to need 2, or is this something that you're just projecting onto her department and the Commissioner of Revenue?
Now, I haven't talked to anybody about what additional staff Montgomery County would use.
Well, I didn't get.
I think he's talking. Yeah, good.
And I guess that maybe perhaps Richard.
I have a question to make.
I
Yes.
assume so.
Yeah.
On that, no, I have not talked to Helen at all about proration. I've talked to other localities similar in size, as well as smaller localities, even smaller counties that have 20,000, 30, 78,000. They've added several employees just to do proration.
Can I ask why y'all haven't communicated better?
First of all, when she presented this to the board, I was not aware that it was being considered. I actually, last year, August the 15th, I had sent an email out to the board stating that if anything else came up about anything that pertained to the commissioner's office and the treasurer's office, that I needed to be contacted or vice versa, so we can talk about this. It's an input. Proration is not something that said, yeah, it sounds good that we can get X number of dollars. We don't know how much X number of dollars it would create. And the last board meeting, it was said that no tax increases for Montgomery County would be looked at $2.55 per 100. Well, how much tax increase do you want? How much do you want proration to give back to the county? That's never been addressed. The thing about it, if you want an increase without hiring staff, training, and everything that I listed there, the board ought to consider going up from 255 to 265, 275, or some other way to get that instead of proration. So many unknowns.
Well, I guess my question is, you obviously knew that you made this presentation tonight, but you never reached out to her and gave her a call?
She never reached out to me. This is a commissioner's function. It's not a treasurer's function. Yes, it becomes a treasurer's function, but she never talked to me about proration.
I was running also, I guess this may be a question to both of you, the numbers you had indicated that you send out about 400 supplemental bills per day. Doing the math, that's about 146,000 supplementals. Is that how many you typically send out in a year?
Well, I guess I'm not understanding your question.
On the slide, it indicated that there was, I was just trying to do the math.
You mentioned it in your presentation as well, that you send 400 supplemental bills per day.
Not the whole year. When we send out that mass billing, we send out 63,000 until we get to May 31st. And again, that could be new people also coming into our city. Not necessarily is that all a supplemental bill from just that 63,000, if that makes sense.
And I believe Ellen Flowing had stated it's about a period of 2.5 months that all these added bills are being used.
I was just looking at your slide, that led me to believe that you were every day sending out 400
No, it's not every
supplemental.
day. But after that 2.5 months, like, it's nothing for us to have a couple hundred a day.
Okay.
Just because we bill every single day. So if you buy a car today, sell it, you have to, you call the treasurer, the commissioner. As soon as you call our commissioner, our system generates a bill for that change. But one of the problems that, and again, I don't know how you're going to implement this if you do, but like, for example, businesses that have a huge number of fleets. They'll call in and say they'll have a bill and say 3 of their vehicles they don't own anymore. But one of them, they can't, our commissioner can't make the change yet because the change has not been made on DMV. He uses DMV to generate all his bills. So the 2 vehicles that he took off today is going to generate a bill tonight. Well then, say 2 days or 3 days later, they call back and say, okay, I got the change made at DMV, that generates another bill. So one of the things that we have to do during the week when we see a business, and over time, you've just learned who those businesses are, we wait till the end of the week to send out those bills because we were getting so many complaints from businesses that said, I have 3 bills, which one do I pay? Because they don't know. I mean,
Mr. Shelton, one of the points that you brought up was how much are we doing this to gain revenue? I'm not doing this to gain revenue, at least the way I'm looking at it. It's a fundamental fairness. If I have a car on January the 2nd but sell it on January the 3rd, I'm paying taxes for the whole year. But at the same time, if I own a car and buy a new car on February 1st and have it the whole year, I don't pay any taxes on that for that first year until the following year, as I understand it.
Right.
And so, out of
not all cars are bought January, February, March, April,
absolutely,
the whole 12 months.
Right. And so I'm not looking at this one. I'm looking to see if fundamental fairness. Yes, it may end up being some of the numbers I've heard is anywhere from 300 to, and I know it's not definite, to say $500,000–$600,000. To me, it's something I wish to explore, and I think that's what the board did. Right. As far as exploring, I am not committed at this point in time saying we are doing proration. I do appreciate, from my perspective, you coming and providing your perspective on how it affects your office. I do wish that there was a better communications between you and the Commissioner of Revenue. I've got to admit.
Can I comment again?
Yes. Go ahead.
Mary, you had a good question. You asked, Ellen, why do they still continue to prorate? If we still, over all these years, continue to use January 1st billing, it has been good for us. They feel the city, it's good for them. Evelyn's been the treasurer for 11 years. Not anything she could do about it because it was there in place, but she's told you how much work it takes. You talk about fire, and that's a great question too, and I appreciate that. And I'm just using this as an example. You had the same automobile in the city of Roanoke. It cost you $245 per 100 versus Montgomery County at $255 per 100. Every locality has different taxing authority. So when someone comes from a prorating county or they move out, let's say they do move out February, why do I have to pay an additional 11 months? Because that's our means of taxation. If you cross the lines and go to Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina, or wherever you might go, there's different means of taxation for a locality. How do we make our budget? One of the ways we make our budget, what does it consist of? $255 per 100. And that's, we have a low rate. Roanoke County is $350, and other localities throughout the state are $4 and much higher than that. When you get to the Fairfax area, it's roughly $5 per 100 there. And I've always felt in talking to other treasurers, not just the last couple of weeks, but since I've been treasurer, that I found that a lot of prorating localities the size of Montgomery County charge extra for personal property taxes because of the expense. We've already said how many employees it would need. I didn't give an unrealistic number. I tried to be fair as I could be. So when the board considers all the options, think of a new employee at $30,000 times 4 is $120 plus benefits plus training. It's not just for 1 year. It's from years from now on. If that employee's here 20, 25, 30 years, it will continue. And the way our county continues to grow, 2 for each department will just be a starting point. You've heard what Evelyn says about all the costs, customer service. We don't want to diminish customer service over a new tax. We don't want that on anyone. You don't want your phone ringing off the hook morning, noon, and night saying, Chris, why is this happening? You know, Matt, why is this happening? Or any of y'all. You don't want a bombardment of emails. And on it goes. We've got a wonderful county. The majority of people that we deal with are wonderful people. It's almost like Ivory showed, 99.9%. Great. but we will have a few, and I emphasize a few, that are not pleased with our current tax system. But why jeopardize the majority of the 96,000 residents of Montgomery County over a few? To be honest with you, I get very few calls. Our office gets very few calls about proration. The only way they call us about proration is that on our personal property tax bill, we state on there, we are not a prorated county. Then they probably ask, what is proration? I've just test marketed it and asked people, what is proration? They have no idea. I've asked dozens of tax-paying citizens in Montgomery County that question. What is proration? They have no idea. I hope you don't think I'm hollering. I'm not.
No, I don't. I was just sitting there thinking, I'm seeking re-election, so apparently I don't mind getting a lot of phone calls asking me about why things are going on.
And then, didn't like that system, it made me different.
Okay, Mr. Green.
I've got one. It's more of a statement of things that I don't like than it is anything else. But when I look at this, I look at the automobile dealers that are in Montgomery County, and they employ a hell of a lot of folks to do everything from washing a car to selling you a car to financing a car, whatever it may be. How much would we pay to get a dealership such as that is going to sell you a couple, $3,000 or $4,000, 3,000 or 4,000 cars in a month? How much would we pay for that? And the reason I ask that question is, if we're going to start something like this, don't you think that would be somebody that we would want to absolutely get in and talk to and see what they think about it and how that would go? You know, none of this stuff is exactly what meets the eye, no matter where you turn the page. Your trade-ins. Somebody comes in and buys a new car and trades in their car that's a year old. Not a lot of difference in that trade. They're not going to pay a whole lot more taxes. They won't pay any more taxes when you figure out it has to make that same trip that all these other cars do. That have to pay these big numbers. So all I'm saying is, if you're going to do something like this, we need to get all the people that's involved with doing it, because if we don't, we are shortchanging our people who have and are paying lots and lots of dollars to be in our county, and you know, they make it pretty clear that they don't have to be here.
I'd like to add one statement that I think will help you. You know, one of the things Richard is saying is, like, you know, for us, we've been doing it for 27 years. So over time, in the years, we've educated our taxpayers. We just deal with the ones that are coming in. I'm very fortunate that back in 2003, before I became the treasurer and the state cut some positions, our city did not cut those positions. They let our treasurer keep them. So currently, 2 of my staff are 100% paid by the locality. My part-time staff is 100% paid by the locality. So I'm very fortunate in the city where my commissioner and I, we spend a lot of time together. We've got great support from our city council and our city manager, and we both participate very heavily in the city budget. So we try to stay on top of, you know, what these costs are. So again, you know, I'll just tell you that just listen to what your staff has to tell you, because they're the ones that are doing this work. They're the ones that understand the needs of your taxpayer. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing or a good thing. I don't know what's good for your locality, but I couldn't stress more that you really get everybody in the room and you sit down and you really understand what it's going to do to your county. And I think your idea is good, to talk to your dealers, because that is something, you know, a lot of people get confused in our city because when they get those bills, they say, but I paid this fee to have you told. No, they don't tell us. So.
Oh, one other thing, I know we're taking a long time, and thank you for that. In an earlier conversation I had with Evelyn, everyone in her office, in the commissioner's office, is trained in proration. It's not just a job for 1, 2, 3 people. You think we can hire a new position and this will take care of all of it? It won't do it with the size of Montgomery County. It won't even do it with the size of a county which Goochland is 20,000. It won't do it for that. And I've talked to the neighboring localities, the towns that are around the cities, all those that I mentioned. They're totally against proration, and talking to the treasurers of the localities, the finance departments, their main thing is we cannot afford to hire another person, train people in proration, staff in proration.
Our tax relief, I'll tell you this, we just got it. Our council just approved it at their last meeting. Last year, our personal property tax relief was 58.3%. This year, it's going to be 49%. So we're going to have some taxpayers calling us wanting to know, I've got the same car, my assessed value is down, but why are my taxes higher? And the reason being is because we've had higher dollar volume vehicles move into our locality and more vehicles. So that caused our rate to go down. So people are going to they will pay more taxes this coming year for 2015.
Any more questions? Okay, Mary.
Okay, so half of the Virginia localities do proration, but it sounds like the specific ones that you talked to didn't like it. Are there any out there that find it to be a good thing and a good way to bring in extra revenue, or do we know that?
Well, I keep going back to Goochland, small county. What they said, their cost so far, they just implemented a couple years ago. Looks like it's a break even. If you want to break even on this, why even consider? Why even consider? I don't think prorations you found out this evening, or hope you have, through both of our presentation. It's a lot of work that goes in there. It's a lot of thought. I would hate to see it voted on and said, yes, let's try, and do not heed what I tried to tell you tonight. In my presentation, I tried to give you comments from prorating counties. I tried to stay away from the localities that did not. I did mention in my presentation tonight our connecting counties and towns and cities and all like this. I talked to the city of Salem. They don't like it, but they have to do it. If you voted on it, then we would have to do it. We wouldn't have any other choice. But my recommendation is still not right for Montgomery County.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Shelton, I have a question or two. And I don't know what's a question or comment. Your treasurer and your report to the citizens of Montgomery County. The citizens of Montgomery County are your boss. I think you run the treasurer's office fairly well. I really enjoy getting my tax ticket ahead of time. But there's 2 weeks, 2 times a year, that we have people in line, elderly people in line down at your office. Some of them are passing out, falling out, and things like this. And is it a plan or something that you can improve that service those 2 weeks to try to get those people, those seniors and everything out of there?
I'll be glad to answer that, Bill.
Okay.
Good question. In the past few years, we've had 3 or 4 that have passed out on that. And when they come to our line, we used to have 6 tax technicians. Now we have 3. And actually, I took one of my staff from delinquent collections and put them as a tax technician. Their classification isn't a tax technician, but that's what they do. We have 4. at lunchtime. Many times we have 2 lunches at the same time. We start our lunches at 11 to 12, 12 to 1, 1 to 2. Well, most people don't want to eat lunch past 2 o'clock.
Right.
So it's one of the 4. Many times it's like 12:30 to 1:30. They leave 2, even at our busy time of year. It's actually maybe 2 staff members there. If we had more, that 5 years ago we got our staff cut by 1/3 of our staff. Certainly we can meet that need. But what you just said, and I like that you like how we send out the bills. We send them out late September due December 5th. We give them part of September, all of October, all of November, and the first week of December, roughly 2.5 months. The taxpayer can drop it in the outside drop box, mail it in, or if they choose to stand in line.
Okay, but you know, the seniors, a lot of the seniors in this county, they take pride in hand delivering their taxes. They wait 2 weeks before, like you and I, or the person I was speaking about, a check and put it in the mail. But when I stand up in front of planning and I look down and see it, most of those are seniors. I mean, you look, it's no young people standing to that line. It's old people. And just like my father years ago, he would drive to Sears to pay his bill. He'd drive over here to pay his bill. And it took a long time. Says, Dad, why don't you guys just write a check and put it in the mail? Well, we don't have no receipt. They don't know that. Well, you work with them a while and they get it done. But it really, I mean, to me, those 2 weeks, 2 times a year, that would be like all hands on deck. I wouldn't approve any vacation. I know that it's coming. I would move these people through the line so they wouldn't be, you know, some of them have complications from diabetes, some are just elderly, they can't stand so long. And and I know you are too, you're all about customer service. And I believe this board here is all about customer service. And so I hope that when they get to it, I think our finance department have offered you some assistance during those periods. But when
we never worked out that bill, been able to handle this, but truly, if we went to another system, we would not be able to handle it. We would not have the numbers, the dollars and cents numbers, collections. I don't know how much it would drop, but the $1.5 million would drop down considerably if it goes into place without other staff. Yes, I'm for customer service. I think our county is customer service oriented. But I can only do what I have, and people do get sick. But to answer your questions, vacation in the June billing, December billing, there's no vacation times there.
Okay.
We do, because these, you'd be surprised the hundreds of phone calls that we get per day. They have to be answered. I don't like an automated phone system that talks to a machine. Everybody else has machines that talk to you.
Right.
Customer service for Montgomery County, I don't want to go there.
One comment, I don't want our citizens at home to confuse this 96,000 residents, not included 30,000 students. That includes the 96,000 includes the 30. It includes the students. I mean, if I'm home, I'm going to say, well, my God, there must be 124,000 people in this county, including students. The 30,000 does not, I mean, is included in the 96,000.
These are 96,000 residents that we have on the books. It's always been my understanding. I got the report from the state, and those are temporary people in and out. They're not permanent residents.
The town of Blacksburg counts them as residents. We count them as 40. I think the town that says it's got 42,000 or 43,000 residents in it. That includes the students.
I'll get back to you on that. But to my knowledge, that is not the county.
I didn't want the people at home who's looking at this presentation to be confused.
Okay. I don't want to be confused either, but I've always taken that Mr. Meadows, we just got that report, now sent it to your office, it had 96,000, I think 2013 was the day.
From the Weldon Cooper Center.
That includes the 30, the students who fill out the census who say that they live in Montgomery County are included in that. There are many that don't keep their residences here, and they are not included in that, but they don't live here, and if they don't live here, then they're not paying taxes here. They're paying taxes in Fairfax, they're paying taxes in Richmond, or the like. We have roughly 96,000 residents, as I understand it. It's not 96,000 plus 30,000.
Okay, I'll check on that too. Trying to debate.
Well, we as a board, and I think this is a fair question to you, is that we're in the, I guess, in experimental stage with proration and the Commissioner of Revenue's office. We're in the experimental stage, and would that be a fair response?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so.
Going to experimental, a few numbers can tell you how cars change daily. Like Mr. Green had said on that. They change daily. It's no way of looking at the cars today, Saturday. Yeah, they give you something to start working on. It'll change tomorrow. It'll be totally different next week, next month, or the next 6 months. It'll continue to change. But I'm just, what I have found, I'll be glad to answer any more questions, on that.
And Ms. Powell, I mean, I hope we didn't attack the messenger. I mean, we really thank you for coming and shedding some light on proration, so to speak.
I appreciate the opportunity to be here. You guys have a tough job. I wouldn't want it. I think mine's tough enough too, but you've got a tougher one, and so.
And thank you, Richard, for coming and coming to the lion's den, so to speak.
That's fine.
And we appreciate all that you do.
Thank you. Please consider that report, and I'll thank you.
Okay.
I just wanted to say thank you for coming.
Come on.
And I didn't, just by note too, I didn't ask everyone to come. She volunteered on her own to do that. So I'll be glad to speak.
So you owe her one. So when she gets in a pickle down there, you owe her one.
Yeah, when I try to get our council to change something, I'm going to bite Montgomery County down.
Okay.
Thank you all.
And thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, next item is
Public hearing.
Public hearing, because I think we just meditate on the information that was shared to us until we can move on further with as far as action. Public hearing. The following public hearing was advertised pursuant to law in a New River Valley section of the Roanoke Times on March 8th and March 15th. Request for a public utility easement at Shenandoah Cable TV LLC.
Or do you want to?
I'll say a couple. Yeah, the county received a request from Shenandoah Cable Television, who trades as Shentel, and they wanted to get an easement on the county-owned property in front of the Blacksburg Middle School and right in the Kipps Elementary School. They wanted a 10-foot easement so that they could put a data line or what's referred to as a communication line in the easement, but it's basically just a broadband line for internet access. And I've talked to Dan Baronato with the schools, and the schools are okay with it. And the schools were able to negotiate an agreement with Shenandoah where, in return for the easement, Shenandoah would agree to provide free internet service up to the number is, I think it's 150 Mbps, and that free internet service would go through or connect at the middle school, and then Dan advises to me that then the schools can use that throughout their whole system. So it's not just going to the middle school there at Blacksburg, but then that increase in broadband will help their entire system throughout all their schools. And Shenandoah has agreed to provide that at no cost to the county, so long as they're during the duration of time that they're using the easement, which at this point there's no set time for it to expire. There's a little map that shows where it is. It's right along Price's Fork Road. It's a 10-foot wide easement. It won't have any impact on the use of the property because it's in the area right adjacent to the right-of-way. As you know, under state law, anytime you guys give an easement or any property interest, you have to hold a public hearing, and that's the purpose of this public hearing.
Any questions from board members?
Just a quick clarification. You might not know this. The answer to this, Marty, is that so the 150 megabytes per second that's supplementary bandwidth to the existing network?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, supplementary. It'll increase their broadband, and that number was brought up was a number that was recommended by their IT person at the school. So.
Okay. Thank you.
And one more thing, and then I'll be quiet, is that if the board so chooses, Shenandoah hasn't specifically asked for the board to approve the easement, but if there were no problems, that way they could go ahead and finish their project and get that in the ground. But so on your in the agenda is a proposed resolution approving the easement. If the board so chooses they don't want to approve it and want to put it on next time, that's fine as well. So it's just an option.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Metz, did we have anyone that signed up for this public hearing?
No, ma'am, not for the public hearing on the easement. We do not.
If there's anyone in the audience that would like to address the board about this issue during the public hearing, they can come forward now. Seeing no one, we close the public hearing, and Mr. Brown is back.
Okay, our next item on the agenda is public addresses.
Well,
consent agenda.
No, I'm sorry.
Action following the public hearing, do we want
Okay.
to
Isn't
add
it?
this
Add it
to the agenda at this point in time? We have the resolution.
I thought it was in
It
the...
says action following public hearing. I don't know if at that point in time we moved to put it on the agenda to approve.
I think it's already on the agenda.
It's on the agenda, yeah, later on.
Oh, it is. I apologize.
Okay.
That's good, man. Keep me on.
No, it's not good.
The only reason I knew that is because I listened to Marty.
He said it was on the...
Because I forgot it was on there, too.
I just thought the resolution was down below.
Is it safe to say public addresses now?
Sorry. Yes, sir.
Okay. This is a public address period. Citizens who wishing to address the Board of Supervisors about any issue dealing with county business may do so at this time. You have 5 minutes. When you approach the podium, state your name and address for the record. And we have 2 people signed up. We have, is it, how do you pronounce it?
Lois Calorie? Lois Calorie?
Yeah, well. Calorie, yeah.
Good evening. I am Lois Caleri.
Caleri, all right.
We're close.
And that's Italian American name.
Yeah.
And
I like the way you say it better.
Caleri. And I work for Enroll, Virginia, and I work out of the office of the Southwest Virginia Legal Aid Society on 155 Arrowhead Trail in Christiansburg. Enroll, Virginia is a nonprofit entity whose mission is to educate and inform consumers about healthcare options that they can receive through the Affordable Care Act. We do not take sides on this issue. We simply present the facts as they are in the law today. And I am here to talk about a special enrollment period that you can share with your constituents. As you know, the open enrollment period ended February 15th. But this is the first time that people will be paying a penalty if they did not have health insurance. And right now, the penalty is $95 per person. That will rise to $325 per person in 2016. So let's talk about what's happening today. The special enrollment period is going to end April 30th. Now, who is eligible to enroll in this particular time period? individuals and families who did not have health coverage in 2014 through the marketplace and are subject to paying a penalty. They can enroll during the special enrollment period if they meet the financial guidelines set forth by the marketplace. Those who are unaware or did not understand the implications of the penalty, they can also enroll during the special period. And those who became aware of or understood the implications of the penalty after the end of the open enrollment, which was February 15th.
February 15th, okay.
Now, consumers who enroll on or before the 15th of the month, coverage will be effective on the first day of the following month. Now, if people had health insurance for 2014, then they don't have to worry about this penalty, okay? When they file their taxes, they just check a box, or the tax preparers or accountants will check a box to indicate that they had health coverage in 2014 through A, their employer, 2, Medicare, 3, Medicaid, 4, Veterans Care, and 5, qualified health coverage that qualified as a minimum essential coverage. Individuals who enroll during the special enrollment period will still owe a fee for the months that they were uninsured and did not receive an exemption. Okay? And this special enrollment period is designed to help those consumers get coverage for the remainder of the year 2015 and avoid additional fees in 2016. So that's who I am. That was my message that I wanted to get across to each of you. And if you would like to partner with me and help get this word out to your constituents and people you know, because I've talked to people who filed their taxes and they called me and they said, we paid the penalty. What do we do now? And their tax preparers, some of them are referring them to me, and I try to help the best way I can. But I will say this, in order to enroll in the marketplace, you do have to have an income. All right, and a lot of people are unaware of that. So depending on your household size, that tells us what the criteria is. For example, a single person has to make at least $11,000, maybe $500, I'm estimating that, all the way up to $46,000. A single person who makes less than an $11,000 threshold falls into what we call the Medicare gap. As you know, Virginia did not expand Medicaid. So the question becomes, what do I do? I've answered that question a lot this past week. And, you know, I give them some options, and then sometimes I'll feel, well, why is it, if it's affordable, why can't I have it? So then I just, I go back to the facts and I talk about the law as it stands now. But the special enrollment period is what we're trying to get out there now for people to help them avoid that penalty for 2016. So thank you for your time. And if you have any questions, you can ask me later, because I know this isn't the time for Q&A, right?
That's right.
But my name and number is on the cover sheet. Feel free to call me. I do answer my calls, I return calls, I return email messages. So we can talk then. And if I may, anyone in the audience would like to have a copy of the PowerPoint presentation, I'll be more than happy to give it to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would anyone like a copy of this?
I didn't realize it was so expensive.
Smil. Mr. Smil, he's coming. Oh, he's the next speaker.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thanks. And Mr. Smil and any others that may want to speak, our timer is not working properly, so if you get to the 1 minute mark, I'll give you a minute left, and then I'll give you the...
Okay. Good evening. ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Brown. Paul Smeal from 1107 Kentwood Drive, Blacksburg, Virginia, a resident of the county in Blacksburg since 1960. So I'm one of those seniors that Bill was speaking about, I guess, although I don't think it's mine. I'm here tonight to simply say thank you for what you've done and the way you contribute and support the Parks and Recreation. I wish I could get more seniors out, but seniors don't get out at night. And so therefore I'm speaking for an awful lot of seniors in that regard, because it's really meant a lot, not only to me, but to the youth of Montgomery County. And I like to think I keep up to date with all of it going on, but recently, within the last 6 months, I guess, you allowed the staff to add one more addition, which allowed one for the outdoor sports mainly, in which it allowed the staff now to be one down in Elliston, one in Ryder, one out at Price's Fork. So it really has helped a lot by not having individuals travel that much around the county. So like I said, I want to thank you for that. And I was trying to think, what could I do to change things a little bit? And I'm here, not that I'm just a one-time event participant, but I was trying to think, and this is not right, I don't know how you would say it, but every time the new brochure comes out, we put a Paul and Gladys there and list everything we want to do, what she might want to do, what I want to do. And she says, what's it going to cost? I said, well, we'll get a bill. Leanne will send me a notice. And I think for each time we do it, it's around $1,200. And the wife says, wasn't that a lot? And I said, well, let's divide it by 2. Then let's divide it by 4 months. And that's not a whole lot. And we're getting a whole lot from the county in these kind of programs. And I think it benefits an awful lot. A lot of the ladies that go with us are widows or single, and it's a way for them to get out. And there is a diversity among the seniors. For example, one day last week we went over to Parisburg and hiked a couple different trails, one out in the county, one within the town. From there we went to Pembroke for a Korean restaurant for a meal, and we had one group of people. Friday night we go to Roanoke, or from there we go to Jefferson Center and see the opera Cinderella. And here we have another group of people. So Kenvia Adams Bush, with her senior programs, has this one group that wants the operas, another country music, another here, and we have a hiking group. And then we look at the outdoors, and one that I'm really interested in is Brad Buchanan's with his outdoor with rafts. And I understand from Mitchell that they've gotten some kayaks, so I guess I'll try that. We try to throw the same things in, and they say, no, you can't do that. Kenvia won't allow us to do horseback riding. Brad says we can't do the Virginia Creeper from the trail down because he fell off the bike there the other day. So we are limited on some of the things we do. But like I say, I want to thank you for what you've done. And I guess I've been working with the Montgomery County Parks and Rec as a participant for somewhere around 16, 18 years. I think I started when Tom retired for the first time. You recall he retired and he came back and then he retired again. So again, I just want to say thank you for what you've done. Some things some things you need to be looking about, and we talked about this in our commission meeting, that somewhere down the road we're going to have to face the frog pond as to, do you have to replace it, do you do this or that to it. So, and I often bring up a splash pond. We really could do well to have a splash area for children. It wouldn't take more lifeguards, and that would be an addition out there. So there are some things, and we are working on a long-range plan, and hopefully we can get that done and you will read it. So I'd like to end that with a Parks and Rec, and as they're coming over, I got I guess you'd call it a personal vindicta. I'd like to see at the New River Mall a bench for those of us who ride the two-ton trolley. And I'll preface this a minute. Is about 5 years ago I noticed I got to get dementia. So if you think I'm looking at you, I can't really see you. I have to look to the right or left to see who I'm looking at. So I no longer drive, haven't for 4 years. The wife and I, so the bus is our mainstay to get around. And I like to walk from Blacksburg to the mall, and then wait for the trolley and ride it back to Blacksburg. This is back last fall, I guess. I got to the mall before the bus, so I sit on the curb. The bus, two-ton trolley pulls up. By the time this 82-year-old body gets up off the curb, it doesn't move like it did 20 years ago. The bus is pulling out and leaving me there. All the way back to Blacksburg. This is interesting because we've had the two-ton trolley for what, 20 years? And when it was started, it went from Blacksburg to the mall to Christiansburg. And now it goes Blacksburg to the mall. You get off of the trolley, get on the Christiansburg bus to get to the government center. In other words, that's how I get around and do all this. Not only do you have the two-ton trolley stopping there, you got two Christiansburg buses stopping, you got the Radford bus stopping, and just recently I saw 1,500 students at the community college, and yet we do not have a bench or anything to sit on to wait for the trolley or any of these buses outside. So I guess I'm asked this on, hopefully someone's listening to me, and I hope Mr. Meadows can call Frank at the mall and say, how about benches out there? One of the ladies the other night said, well, maybe Coles might build that. Well, someone's out there that can donate and do some benches. That's a one-person crusade I'm on, but it affects thousands of people. And while you're asking for the benches, ask for the two-ton trolley to extend the hours. To me, it's sad that the trolley doesn't start till 12:15, ends at 5:15, 4 days a week. I'd sooner see it start at 10 or 8 in the morning and run later in the evening with that number of students out there. So thanks for listening, and thanks for hearing about the Parks and Rec.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If I can, I know we don't usually comment on public address, but I have passed that request on previously, and I will pass it on again. Blacksburg Transit usually handles the benches and whatnot, but I'll ask again because Mr. Smill mentioned that several months ago, and we'll follow up. So,
is there anyone else in the audience who would like to address the board tonight, who may not have had an opportunity to sign up or whatever?
My name is Bill Murray with the 401 Gibbons Lane in the Blacksburg Estates, which is currently being redeveloped for affordable senior housing. And I want y'all to know, everybody's for affordable housing, and everybody has a different idea of what affordable is. The problems I see with this development is that people living in Blacksburg have an average median income of about $30,000. People in Blacksburg States have an average median income of about $10,000 because a lot of them so many are on Social Security, retirement, disability, or whatever. They are currently paying $300 a month for their housing. That includes their lot rent, water, sewer, trash removal, and snow removal. The best I've seen with this development to replace this part is the rents would be at least $435 for a one-bedroom unit. That's about a 30% increase in their housing expenses. So it's the term affordable for seniors who most likely are going to be trying to live off of $10,000 a month. Paying the $300 that they pay now is about a third of their income, their annual income. And they have to juggle to make ends meet with food, transportation, clothing, whatever. Also, the development is displacing people to the other side of the park, which is at best a temporary solution, because who knows when that's going to be rezoned and redeveloped by the town. It's, some say as little as 2 years, some say more. But once they're being put out of their homes on 401, homes that some have been in there for decades, and they own their home. They're not mansions, but they're being put out. They're not being compensated for their loss of their homes and whatever property goes with it. They're they're moving somewhere they really don't want to be because there's no trees on the other side of the park. And they're there for just a few years, and then where are they going to go? There's no place in Blacksburg anymore for somebody who's on that kind of income to live. So that's the 3 points are that we all want affordable housing. We all think of it as something different. Right now, the most affordable housing in Blacksburg is in the trailer park. And to get to what is called affordable is forcing people to, where they're having their homes taken from them. And there's no eminent domain because it's a private project. So, in short, I'm against it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. It's that
hello again.
Hi.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to come speak again tonight. My name is April DeMontz. I live at 213 Woodbine Drive in Blacksburg, and I'm here tonight to ask for your support of the resolution on your agenda tonight for Fieldstone. I'm coming to you as a board member of the Neighbor Valley Apartment Council. I've been on the board there for 10 years, and also as the vice chair of the Town of Blacksburg's Housing and Community Development Advisory Board, though I will caution that I'm not speaking on behalf of either of those, just using those merely as reference points to my comments. As part of our work in the Housing and Community Development Advisory Board, we've been very involved with Fieldstone from sometime, I believe it was the fall of last year that we first started talking with them. And talking with them primarily about relocation of existing residents, that was a major concern, and also developing a community in a way that gives it a sense of home for the residents that are going to live there, that include a lot of the recreation amenities that you discussed 2 weeks ago, Mr. Creed. And I think that Fieldstone has come with an amazing plan for the town of Blacksburg, something that is very rare that we don't get to see very often. And I'm asking that you support it for a number of reasons. One, because it's consistent with the comprehensive plans for the town of Blacksburg and for Montgomery County. It supports Montgomery County's goal of promoting private or public-private development within the county. And it also shows quite a bit of commitment to local and regional cooperation. The town of Blacksburg's town council has had 2 separate votes on this particular development. The first was a rezoning, and the second was a financials. Fieldstone also came to the town of Blacksburg to ask for some tax consideration and waiving of water and sewer fees and building permits, things like that. The town did pass those financials contingent upon satisfactory relocation of the current residents in the park. So Fieldstone will not be able to take advantage of the financials given to them, or the financial incentives, unless all of the residents are satisfactorily relocated. And in closing, this development will be built to Earthcraft standards. It's going to have professional on-site management, and it's a huge opportunity for more access for affordable housing, both within the county and within the town. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yavator Manager, 1600 Winslow Drive, Blacksburg. I'm here to talk about the Fieldstone project in Blacksburg. I support the creation of more affordable housing in our county, but not at any price. I have followed the issue with significant interest and attended all the relevant meetings. The proposed plan suffers from 2 main problems. One, density, the other, stormwater management. According to the staff report, the proposed density of 25 bedrooms per acre or 14 units per acre is greater than the density envisioned for that area. The areas to the north and west of this property are zoned for low density, and high density developments are creeping into the area from the east. A higher density would set a bad precedent for the remaining larger section of the Blacksburg estates. The recent pattern in Blacksburg's approval of high density developments in the Toms Creek watershed is both unfortunate and alarming. It seems that the town's engineering department places too much emphasis on stormwater models instead of evidence on the ground. A number of residents have repeatedly mentioned their concerns, but they have not been heard. Although we understand that the proposed stormwater plan may conform to the regulations, the problem remains with the inadequate channel. In her letter to Mr. Simonis of Balzer and Associates, written on December 9, 2014, Ms. Coffey Howard, the town's environmental engineer, admitted for the first time that the downstream channel is inadequate and that frequent flooding occurs there. She further indicated that the Fieldstone project cannot undo decades of prior unmanaged development or remove lands from the floodplain. What should also be mentioned is that any additional impervious surfaces can have devastating effects downstream. One way to define an inadequate channel is that it cannot convey a 10-year storm without overtopping its bank. Currently, much less severe storms are causing serious flooding in our watershed. In early February, during a town council work session, Ms. Shermer, the town's director of engineering, claimed that the 2 ponds adjacent to Blacksburg Estates were more than sufficient to handle the area's stormwater. But our observations indicate something else. Storms far less intense than a 1-year storm overwhelmed those ponds and caused flooding in our neighborhood and in Toms Creek Road area. This is a clear sign of both the inefficiency of those ponds and the inadequacy of the channel. We should remember that the town's calculations are based on models, and the results of models are only as good as the inputs the models receive. Clearly, there is no substitute for on-the-ground observations. The mobile homes do not have a very significant stormwater footprint. It is difficult to imagine that the proposed plant, with all the impervious surfaces it creates, would reduce the output below current levels in any way. As I mentioned elsewhere, one of the most important steps to reduce harmful effects of stormwater is prevention. Irresponsible development is the most significant contributing factor. Our watersheds are overwhelmed and over their carrying capacities. Creating more impervious surfaces as proposed by the current project only exacerbate the problem. I believe any proposal for changes should be towards reducing density, not increasing it. We have urgent needs elsewhere, among them our education system. While Mr. Park's expertise and persistence securing the most profitable deal for his company deserve mention, I would much rather prefer that our respectable supervisors were as fastidious about securing the most principled deal for their constituents by avoiding wasteful spending on short-sighted projects. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board tonight? Seeing no one coming forward, we'll close our public address session.
Mr. Chairman, can we take a break?
I'm getting ready to call that break. We'll be back at, it is, quote to my iPad, it's 9 o'clock. We will start promptly at 9:10. We'll reconvene at 9:10, so.
Okay,
We need a,
so if anybody needs it, they can have
we didn't do consent agenda, did we?
No, sir. We stopped at public address.
Okay. Our next item is consent agenda.
Mr. Chair, I believe addendum was first, before that.
What is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and we need to add something. The addendum, we need to add tab A. It's not under new business, it's under tab A, the Chantel thing, so we need to add that. So I make a motion to add.
So you're saying I was right?
Yeah, you were right.
No, I'm not saying that.
No, we'll give him that.
All right.
Okay.
And that's it.
Okay, we got addendum added. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, consent agenda.
Do we have to vote that?
Oh, we have to vote on the adding the
Chantel.
yeah, adding Chantel to the
Under new business.
second. Have a motion and a second. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Perkins? Aye. Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Mr. Gabriel?
Aye.
Mr. Creed? Mr. King?
Aye.
Who's in our first?
Aye. Chairman?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Yeah, it's about 9 o'clock. We just
He's
about
trying
lose
to
it, don't we?
speed it up.
Yeah. Okay, consent agenda now.
Move approval.
Second, third.
I have a motion and a second. Any items for discussion on the consent agenda? Will the clerk please call roll?
Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Mr. Gabriel?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Chair Brown?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Need a motion to go into work session. Be it resolved, the Board of Supervisors hereby enters into work session for the purpose of discussing the following: the FY 2015-2016 budget. Have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Gabriel?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Ms. Perkins? Aye. Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Chair Brown?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Go in work session.
Chair Brown, at this time, I'm going to start off. All right, I'm watching the fingers. Who's on first? Looks like Angie's going to get up, so Angie Hill will address us first on the latest updated information on the budget.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
I'm hungry. I haven't had much to go today.
You get plenty to work.
No, I can't eat all that. I bought that in case somebody else wants it. No.
This presentation is also in your Dropbox if you want to look at it on the screen. The part I'm going to talk to you about tonight is this cash sheet, which we go over from time to time, and a question had come up about what our cash position was right now. I think the last time we presented this to you was in the fall, and so some numbers have changed since then. The first number has changed a bit. It is now an audited number, and it was a preliminary number when we gave you that before. And then if you follow across the page, the cash flow of $22.8 million has not changed. That's our still our projected need. The third column is the amount that has been designated or appropriated, in other words, for specific items through your last meeting. The items at the bottom in blue are new since you've gotten this last time. The next box, which is $3.8 million, is the amount of funds that are set aside in reserves. Those amounts have not been appropriated, but they have been set aside for specific items as well. And those amounts also show in blue what has changed since the last time you got this information. So if you go to the far right-hand side of the paper, the $854,000 is how much cash is currently available to spend and hasn't been reserved or appropriated. We've talked before about setting some money aside for revenue sharing for roads. That hasn't been appropriated or reserved yet, so that is still included in the $854,000. So if you back that out, it leaves a balance of $404,000. Does anybody have questions about this slide?
But that would meet the requirements with VDOT. If we set this 450 aside, we would be covered then between the two that we've set aside for the improvements out on Prices Fork Road. Am I correct?
For 1 year. For the upcoming
For
year.
our upcoming year, we're covered.
And then we'll have to appropriate it again in fiscal year 17.
Okay, now it's Mark's turn.
Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about the estimated windfall for fiscal year 15. There's been some questions raised about where we would be with the windfall and how that works. And so normally, if we increase the real estate rate above the existing rate, because it becomes effective on January 1, that second payment, we would receive a little bit more revenue than we would normally get because we would have a higher rate. And so if the real estate rate is actually increased, you would get a windfall. We're actually going to get 2 windfalls this year if the real estate rate is held at the 89-cent rate, and I'll explain how that's going to work. The first windfall is actually due to the reassessment, and so what we would receive is 1/2 of the 1% allowable value. And so when we calculate what the revenue neutral rate will be, state law allows us to retain 1% of the allowable value, and the theory behind that was that additional 1% would help pay for the reassessment cost. And so when we calculate the revenue neutral real estate rate, we take into account that 1% allowable value. And because there will be a 1% allowable value, that increase will only be available, it'll be available for the full year next year, but it'll be available for half a year this year. And so you would actually receive 1/2 of 1% of that allowable value. And that's roughly $316,000 is what we're going to see. And again, that's an estimated number. I'll know what the real number is after we receive the revenues. The other windfall that we would receive, if the rate is left at 89 cents or any value higher than that, then we would receive 1/2 of the penny value for every 1 cent increase that we would have. So if the real estate rate is held at 89 cents, we would have 1/2 of the penny value. That's estimated at around $362,000. Added together, you're looking at roughly $700,000 as far as a windfall. Again, that's one-time money that will be available on the June 5th payment. So is there any questions about that? Make sense? Also on your agenda this evening, we're going to talk about the advertised budget and tax rate. In order to meet the April 9th public hearing date, we have to advertise a budget and a tax rate. It has to be in the newspaper, and it has to be in there at least 7 days prior to the time that you hold the public hearing. The proposed budget was $175.5 million. There are additional state funds for the schools of about $500,000. When we add those together, that's $175.9, almost $176 million. Again, that's based on an 89-cent tax rate. I have a spreadsheet here for when you get to the time in which you want to advertise. Again, when you set the rate for advertisement, you set it at a level. You can't go above that level, but you certainly can go below that level. And so if you would decide to go at 88, 89, 90, 91, whatever you want, I can calculate the number here for you so you know exactly what you'll be advertising. And with that concludes that piece of the presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mark and Angie.
Sorry, one quick question about the extra state funds for the schools. Is that earmarked for anything, or is it just general?
My understanding is the monies are earmarked specifically for raises for school employees. Okay. But in essence, I believe the schools have a certain amount of money already in their budget, so it would basically free up those dollars, and they could use the dollars that they currently have earmarked for raises to do something else with.
Okay, but they would be in the instruction category, or this money could be moved between categories.
Well, I think these dollars would go directly towards the instruction piece, okay. And then the dollars that are supporting the instruction piece now could be moved someplace else.
Okay,
does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, at this point,
some discussion.
We've got staff here to answer any questions or provide any information as we move forward. As Mark stated, we would like to be at a position this evening to have the advertised tax rate and budget figure so that we can move forward with that. So
we're in work session. We can't take a vote, but we can do some discussion on the recommended advertised tax rate. And wherever the discussion want to start at.
Well, I wanted to sort of bring to your attention, from what I could figure out with the school side of things, because they're wanting to do something on their side for their employees like we're doing for our employees as far as doing something in the area of insurance and raises and that kind of thing. And it would seem that within their budget, they have a capital line of $750,000. And in the past, I think that we have allocated some monies to them from different sources. And it's not that it has to be put in the budget a certain way, but like you can use windfall money or maybe end of the year money. And I think if that were done, it's my understanding that there's a need out there for the capital for roofing, for technology equipment, not people, not new programs, and 3 buses. And those are capital items. So if the school board felt or knew that there was a consensus to look for that capital from another source, I think then they might be able to handle the fact that they're facing some of these costs, like an increase in their health insurance of $766,000. Then if they've got the Affordable Care Act for part-time employees, they have this figure of $1.5 million, and then they are looking at step increases for their employees of $2.1 million. It seems like if they could have that capital expense out of their operating and covered in a different way, then that would give them more flexibility within their operating budget to meet the needs that they've set out, even though they're not receiving the full amount of money that they asked for. So I would just bring that to your attention. I don't know if Mr. Meadows would want to comment or somebody would want to comment. Is that possible to do something like that? I know we've done it in the past, and I know they have to get their budget going. Is it possible to do anything like that?
It is. You can, if the board desires to do that. It's not something that has to be added to the fiscal year 16 budget per se, but if the board wants to allocate funds for one-time funding for the schools, you can do it either through some of the funding that Angie mentioned earlier, that in the unappropriated balance, or you can also designate some of the upcoming windfall money should the tax rate stay the same. You can designate some of the windfall money for that as well. So there's a couple of options that you could appropriate funding for.
And I guess, yeah, and I guess I would want to make the point that in the past, you know, our board has had real concern about taking one-time money in the school system, hiring employees, because it's one-time money and you're hiring them for a year, and then what happens to them? Are you going to roll them over into the next budget? But it's my understanding, and I can stand to be corrected, that this money would only be for roofs, for the roofing project, 3 buses, and equipment for technology. And that's where I come from, my support of it being capital.
Well, where are you saying that money? Does it come out of the county reserves? Or are you saying that it comes out of our capital project that we've been setting aside for the schools? Where are you saying that we should bring this money
Well,
out?
that's what I was asking Mr. Meadows about, because we're going to have a windfall. If we hold the tax rate at 89, or if it's above, we're going to have a windfall if it's at 89, okay? So some of it could come from there, and then I don't know if there would be any other end of the year monies available or not. Is there anything else that we could do?
Well, there's the $404,000.
There's the $404,000.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I would be happy to talk about that, but I would be very reluctant to start spending county reserves. I have been critical of the school board in the past, and I know that they've got an incredibly difficult job.
Yeah,
but they've got to address some of their capital maintenance needs, and they've got to reflect that in their budget. And we did provide them all the rollover money with some reluctance, because it did have some employee, basically retaining employees.
Right.
Still, they're still doing that, and that's not one-time money. But they have the needs. They have a budget. They've got to show that they're taking care of their maintenance needs. And again, they don't have an easy job by any means, but I don't see that we can take it out of capital reserves. Now, as far as this $400,000, am I willing that a part of that can go towards the schools? I'm happy to discuss that.
Well, I have a question about that. I thought they had already included the $400,000 in their budget determinations. All right, so that's the extra money that they haven't applied to this problem of all these things they have going.
The $404,000 is extra money at the end of the year from our budget that we haven't allocated.
There was the 425 that they got from the state.
That's right, additional money.
That was additional money, which puts them up about 2.3, ballpark 2.3, 2.4, really close, of new monies that they had, which is a little over 2%. But we're talking about, after we set up $450,000 for the price of pork, we've got $400,000 to work with. And I know that we do have some county issues that we have to address. I'm willing to discuss about some of the funds of that $400,000 going towards the schools.
I think it'd be helpful to have a letter from the school board specifically requesting this.
And, okay, so maybe like specifically requesting based on the fact that they have an additional 400 and some thousand. I thought I had it pretty clear, but I guess what we need from them is they need to request what they would spend this money on, how much the 3 buses cost, how much the technology equipment cost, and how much, what was the third item? The roofs. So what you want is you want that laid out as total cost. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, we've done this for the last 2 years. I mean, so, and traditionally the way it's been done is that the school board has specifically asked for specific amounts of money for specific one-time capital/maintenance issues. And then we've considered that independently from one-time funds and figured out where the money's coming from.
And that's certainly you could very easily apply the windfall dollars, if any, depending on the tax rate, to that issue, as well as any of the surplus funds that we talked about earlier as well. That number that's the number today. That number will continue to fluctuate between now and the end of the year, but that's where we are right now.
Run those numbers by me again, where they're coming from. And yeah, I got that right here for roads and so and so.
Okay.
I want to know. Go ahead. Everybody else asks, go to God.
One of them would be the one would be 404,360. This is the what was left after we put $450,000 to revenue insurance. That would leave 404,360 in that.
Yes,
okay.
And then the other possibility, Ms. Perkins, is when we were talking about the estimated windfall.
Yes.
Which partially is due to the reassessment, as Mark mentioned, and then we would receive about $363,000 if the tax rate remains at 89 cents. So that pool of money plus the 404 would be available.
So 362 or 363 plus 403. 404. 76. So we're talking about 767. Is that what you're saying? 767. If you take the 404 sum and we just said 362.
Well, and then you would be adding that in as well.
So it's right at the middle.
Oh, okay. I know this one.
It's right at $1 million.
$1 million, yeah.
And a little bit more.
That's how much we will have available.
We have the remaining balance, which is 404.
Right.
Then we've got the one-time monies that we will not get again, which is the 670.
670.
That's
Right.
what we're looking at if the tax rate stays the same.
So that's, yeah, 1 million. There,
1 million, a little bit of
right.
$1 million.
Just want to check to be sure. All right, if that happens, then any portion out of that
Could be allocated could be appropriated for that one-time appropriation
And
if
then-
the board desired to do so.
And that does not have anything to do with the 445,
No, ma'am.
250?
No, ma'am, it does not.
Okay, got it.
No, that 445 is
Theirs.
theirs. It's from the state.
But they haven't included it in their budget yet?
No, not yet. No, ma'am.
Okay. So the schools get 445,000.
Okay, so I guess what I just need to know then, or what we're saying then, is we need for the school board to send a letter to our board laid out with those capital expenses so that we know what they are.
Right.
Okay.
And again, that can be addressed at any point in the process because it's not adding to the fiscal year 16 operating budget. So that's something we can handle.
I would also like to see some of the county's capital requirements. I know that we have some, and so I would like to see those as well. Some of the buildings that we have to address.
The biggest issue we've got coming up is the animal shelter, and we're going to be talking to you about that very shortly as well.
Now this 445 and 250, it's added state funding for the school.
Yes, sir.
That's for instructional teachers and
Yes,
so.
sir. That goes.
Well,
I would
it's
like
only
to-
for SOQ teachers, so what happens is, I mean, when you look at that amount, it's only for a small group of people, but they can mix it in with, I guess, their regular money to offer raises.
To offset.
Yeah, offset.
In their budget already, they put in there for raises for.
Step
I would like,
increases.
right. I would like to see what they was going to do with this money takes place of that money. Because the money that's in our budget already, they, as he said, they can move around.
Freeze it up, yes.
But this money here is straight for that. I'd like to see what they was going to do with that.
Well, I think what you may hear on that is that, you know, they were 1.9 million short of being able to fund what they had already. So now that number, or no, I'm sorry, it was 3.9 total. That's right. So we've addressed, so they're still filling the bucket. They're still going to have to reduce things. They're just not going to have to reduce things as much.
And as far as, you know, the other, they need buses on this consent agenda, $202,000 is for buses too, correct?
Yes, sir.
So they need 5 buses this year? Is that what I'm hearing?
Potentially, I think that we're going to get a letter saying that, I have a feeling.
I thought they already had. So you're saying they're 3.5 million short now?
They started off with 3.9 million
Yes.
additional requests. They're looking at right at $2.4 million new money from the state.
Right.
So that puts them still at about $1.5 million according to their budget proposal as a deficit, but with it's still a lot more. It's $2.4 million right now in new monies to the schools that they didn't have last year.
Correct.
Right. Okay, that's what I was trying to.
And I think what I'm understanding is that if we have the tax rate at 89 cents and like let's say this budget goes through and they get what, you know, Mr. Meadows has proposed to us, okay, they can probably make ends meet if they can figure out a different way to handle those 3 areas I told you about.
Well, if they're 1.5 million and they want to have 700, right? 750,000, right?
For the capital needs?
Yeah, for the capital needs. Then that's half of 1.5. So then all they're short is 700,000.
And then they get.
The problem is that they've got to start having a budget that has maintenance in it every single year. They can't, we're not going to have a reassessment every single year. It's only once every 4 years.
Yeah.
And so what I'm worried about is when it puts us into a position where you're having to use one-time money to put Band-Aid on it. They've got to develop a budget to start addressing some of their maintenance needs. And they have an incredibly difficult job in doing that, but they've got to look at that in some way. because next year, the only alternative, there's not going to be a reassessment, so the only alternative is hopefully we're going to have good growth in this county, and I'm hopeful. And then, but hopefully also we'll have to live within our budget until the next reassessment, which is until
4 years.
In 4 years.
Right. Well, what about this capital reserve money here?
Well, those are items that as, excuse me, as needs come up, if we need to address, those are funds that can be utilized for that if we need to. But some of those on the capital reserve, for the example, the landfill, that's of course designated to address any issues at the landfill.
I'm just looking at technology.
Well, that technology reserve is to fund additions to the IT needs of the county. That what was the request from IT this year? Yeah, we had $2 million in requests for IT, so we're certainly not going to be addressing that anytime soon.
Okay. That's helpful.
We do have money in the facilities reserve to address future facility issues and concerns.
Right. You got a 1.3 million in the facilities reserve, but is that not going for part of our animal shelter?
Comments?
Yeah, it has one.
I just have two things, and they're kind of sort of related to the budget, but not necessarily exactly, because they don't necessarily cost anything yet. Is that one, I just want to follow up on the status I had requested, I think at the last, one of our last work sessions about a cost for a park study. I don't know if that'll be handled outside of this process or if it's...
I haven't seen any on library.
Sorry, the library. Sorry, library.
Actually knew what you meant.
Yeah, the parks one very quickly.
This park study's underway with the PDC.
Yeah.
We're still gathering information on what a library need study would cost. There are no funds included in the fiscal 16 budget for that. That is actually something you could use.
The undesignated funds.
Right.
For, yes. Okay. But we need to know how much that might be first before
we've sent out feelers. We haven't gathered the information yet, though.
Right, that's fine. The other thing that I wanted to bring up is is something that we've been talking about for a while now, and this seems an opportune time to do it, although it won't necessarily cost us any money, and that's the paid parental leave, changing the policy to include paid parental leave for our county employees. Now, it's my understanding, and thank you to the staff for resending that information you had provided earlier, and then the new information with the survey that was conducted by the class at Radford University, their Department of Industrial and Organizational Psychology, which showed a really interesting, and actually, honestly, even to me, who supports this policy, a very overwhelming support, especially in the key demographics that we're interested in, younger employees for this policy. 79, 60, 75, 57% of those surveyed in the ages 29 to, under 29 to 39 think it would benefit Montgomery County. And that's even well above people who think they would take it personally. It's my understanding, too, if I'm remembering the presentation, that if we were to put forward a model, a paid parental leave policy that was modeled on the FMLA, as was presented, I believe, by Carol and Ms. Edmonds earlier on.
Karen, yes.
That we have, that the only cost that would be associated would be covering lost time for people out of leave. Potential so paying overtime, for example, for sheriff's deputies and stuff like that. And there's a certain amount of overtime already built into the existing budget. There is the potential, however, that those overtimes can get overextended, and so we might need extra money. And the estimate from the presentation, just kind of reminding everyone what's in the packet, it was about $72,000 to $73,000.
I believe that's correct
on best estimate. So So it seems an opportune time to do this, especially now that we have $404,360 in undesignated funds. What I'd like to suggest is that we put $75,000 of that money aside into a pot, basically, and set it aside for this, to cover this policy, and it just sits there. And if we need it, if we decide to pass this policy and we need it, then money can be drawn from it. And if not, it simply rolls over, and then we have that money for the following year, and then it can be incorporated into the budget at the next fiscal year. And so basically all I'm asking right now is, since I don't think we need a resolution, I'm not asking anybody to vote on anything, is I'd just like to ask if there might be consensus for the staff to prepare a resolution for a future meeting date for us to consider the implementation of this paid parental leave policy.
Is that just to look at it?
Just look at it, just have something to talk about.
Yeah, I'm in favor.
I don't mind looking at it. Again, I don't know. What I worry about is our staff is so lean, and that when we start having people taking a parental leave, it's very difficult when we've had the cutbacks that we've had with the county being able to fill in those positions. But at the same time, as long as it doesn't cost us anything to look at it, I don't mind looking at it.
We have consensus to look at it.
Yeah.
We'll put a draft, wouldn't be an ordinance, we'll put a draft policy together to address that.
And could I just simply ask that you include that $75,000 as part of that policy?
Sure.
As a separate pot of money.
As a reserve could be used as needed to make up.
Yes, and that just be one-time money, not included in the budget, so it wouldn't impact the budget itself.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Other comments while we're in a work session? I think we're looking for an advertised.
That's what I was going to say.
Advertised tax rate.
Mr. Chair, I guess, again, knowing you're in work session and can't
vote, but we can get a consensus while we're here.
Yes, sir.
We can go out and come back in or something.
Well, it's new business on A, so.
Yeah.
That's the Fieldstone thing.
Well, no, new business, not old.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, you're right.
Well, that's true.
But I'm at 89 and leaving the tax rate. I don't mind putting that out there and saying, keep the tax rate where it is and not increase the tax rate. I don't know where everybody else is, but that's where I'm at.
1 penny is 700,000.
It's actually, what's a penny now? 730,000.
Let's go for the 189.
What?
Who's got consensus?
89 cents.
89 cents.
189.
We have 2 at 89.
I like to see it stay at 89.
3 at 89, going once. I can handle 1 more penny, but depends on where we go from here.
Well, I'll tell you what, if we're going to be addressing it a little bit later in
I think you're close to consensus, Mr. Chair.
Yeah. If it's any other items we're going to talk about but the budget before we go out?
I think the Sheriff's Department is going to come forward with a work labor program for the inmates. I think they may, and that may be something I'm looking at and trying to designate some funds, but I don't believe that they've got the numbers yet to the staff, county staff. So other than that budget issue.
We do have some funds in the information that Carol sent out to the board earlier. There was an estimate based on equipment needs and a deputy and whatnot. There's an estimate
like
of approximately $99,500 to establish a work inmate crew. The recurring costs are estimated at about $58,000 a year. The one-time cost for equipment mainly are about $41,000. So the estimate was about $99,500 to get that program up and running.
I wouldn't mind talking about that at least. And again, I see it utilized over at Giles County on a regular basis, whether it's clearing trails, cleaning up along the river, working around the courthouse and making sure everything is spotless. It's something that they utilize on a regular basis. They actually have their inmates working on the trash trucks and picking up garbage. When I say trash trucks, people going to people's houses, picking up garbage from the trash cans right in front of folks' houses. So they utilize their program well. It allows the inmates to get out and work hard. A lot of them find that very rewarding. So,
would this potentially involve layoffs for existing maintenance staff?
Sorry?
Would this involve potential layoffs for existing maintenance staff if this were to be implemented? If all of the lawn mowing, for example, were to be taken over by inmates?
It would take a mighty big crew to eliminate all the lawn maintenance. I mean, I don't foresee layoffs. Carol's coming to the podium. I know she's worked on the numbers.
I just want to mention one thing that you need to keep in mind. There are places that we don't know that the inmate crew would be appropriate for. Our fields next to schools when school's in session, other facilities next to playgrounds. People may not want to have the crews there, so there'll be a need to keep people in our existing crews to deal with those issues as well.
But you have X amount of work, and if inmates are doing a portion of that, then there's either less those people who are doing that work can now be tasked to something else, or they're unnecessary.
Right.
And as Chris said earlier, like, we're short-staffed in the county. We all know that. So hopefully there's other things.
Well, one area we had talked about is we actually contract out a fair amount of maintenance, field maintenance right now. The old Blacksburg Middle School, the old Blacksburg High School, there's several properties that we actually contract with third parties to maintain simply because we don't have the staff to cover it.
So potentially we could move staff over there. Okay, that's all.
Right. The only point I want to make is that they can't go to every area.
No, I agree. It would be
places
appropriate.
they can't go
And
to.
again, just some of the folks that are over there are there for failing to pay child support. It's not that they had multiple DUIs even or stolen, but I guess there's some folks would make that they're stealing from their own children by not paying their child support. But short of that, and there's some folks that are serving some pretty substantial sentences. So.
Right. I think, as Mr. Gabriel said, there's always plenty of work to be done.
Mr. Chair, got a little bit off the subject we done a while ago. You asked for who's in favor of doing what, and you never give everybody a chance, including yourself, to say what you want to do.
Yeah, I think there were some of us.
There were several people talked to.
Oh, I can definitely support the 89 cents. I can go a penny higher. If the consensus is 89, I'm definitely supporting that. But I could go a penny higher if it was reserved in some way for capital needs.
I feel that way.
I think I'd prefer to do 90 cents, but I recognize that that's not going to pass. So, and I would echo what Mary said. I said if we were to increase it by a penny, I would put it aside for ongoing maintenance and capital needs.
I guess you want to hear what I had to say, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What I have to say is that I've been thinking about the 90 cents to 89 cents plus with the windfall we get from the reassessment. And I've told my constituents that early on when we start with budget that I hope that the board could hold a tax rate at 89 cents. And they seem to be pretty pleased with holding it at 89 cents. And I hate to tell people one thing and support another thing. I try to be pretty consistent with my word. If I tell friends and neighbors, well, I guess, neighbors don't know whether they're friends or not, because some of them are still angry at me with building new Blacksburg High School, voting for the tax increase. But the 89 cents is what I can wholeheartedly support. I don't think I can tell them 89, and we recommend 90. I cannot do that.
Well, there's our answer.
Can I make a motion we go out of work session?
Second.
Have a motion and a second to go out of work session.
Second.
The clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Mr. Gabriel?
Aye.
Chair Brown?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Okay, out of work session. I guess we'll have that a little bit later on in the on the agenda. Okay, we'll move on to old business. Subject A, remove from table Fieldstone housing development.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Mr. Gabriel?
Aye.
Chair Brown?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Okay, it's off the table. And
Mr. Chair, the next item
is B, subject B.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Under that is, we've included in your board packet this evening a resolution expressing the county's commitment to support the development of affordable housing on Givens Lane in the town of Blacksburg. This is the resolution that was included in a previous board packet, and as you look into the therefore be it resolved section, there's a couple of blanks that if the board desires to provide some incentive for this project, that the board will need to discuss as to how you would want to fill in those blanks. I know there's been quite a bit of discussion on this and some discussion among the board. So, Marty, does a motion have to be made and seconded before they can enter a discussion on this?
Yeah, under the board's rules. Yeah.
Okay, so I think a motion and second will need to be made to fill in the blank, if you will, and then that'll open the table for the discussion.
Mr. Chair, can I make a motion here?
Yes, you may.
I'd like to propose a kind of modified incentive for this project, something that actually hasn't been proposed quite yet. I'd like to propose a total grant over the course of 10 years of not to exceed $412,118. That would be a 100% grant for years 1 through 5, not to exceed $58,874, and then decreasing by 20% from that 100% over the next 5 years for years 6 through 10, so that there is no grant in year 10. And that is with a total valuation of the property not to exceed $7.2 million.
I'll second that for discussion.
Mr. Chairman, can I asked the staff to pull together some numbers for me. I was wondering if I could ask Carol to put some of those up so we could talk about them and where I'm coming from. And the first number is the historical values of that piece of property as it's been. That's what the current assessed value rate was, and didn't change at all in the reassessment. Prior to that, it had been worth about $762,000. The next one below, that's the Bellevue property across from Bellevue School. That was low-income housing that was put in. It was assessed at about $520,000, so pretty close. There was investment, and now we've got those units. y'all may recall when they had the hookups for the PSA, all the money that they paid PSA to hook up. And so now those folks are paying 3.2 taxes on a $3.2 million. They did get, and you can see the resolutions that are attached. They did get some encouragement from us. We did help them try to get some lower costs and agreed to be a pass-through. But we didn't give these type of same incentives and didn't agree to freeze those. If you look at some of the other parcels, and parcel number 3, and this is the edge. If y'all remember, there was some pretty old rundown. The apartments had been there. Harry Hunt and Mr. Snyder, the first apartments that were built in Blacksburg were right there, and they ended up getting torn down, and the edge got built. And you can look at the reassessments there, roughly it totals about $8 million. Bill, you and I guess several of us remember on Webb Street, there used to be a mobile home park right on Webb Street, right there. Now the assessed value is $28,500,000. Huge amount of taxes that they're paying on. Now, many years ago on the Jackson Street property, and this is up just around just below the cemetery, right where Harding Avenue, Roanoke Street. Remember that mobile home park that used to be in there across from Harding? Well, now those are all apartments. And you can see the investment and the taxes that we've been able to get on those properties. And what I'm concerned about is that if we agree to do this on this piece of property, we've been able to tonight really talk about leaving our tax rate the same. And I understand that there is a need for lower income housing in Blacksburg. But if we do this, we're kind of mortgaging our future. And when we're looking at that, and then this is in regards to the Roanoke Street, and that goes back all the way back to the and that's more the mobile home park. If you remember, there was kind of
sort of two of them.
There were two of them. There was one up at the top end of it, right beside the cemetery. Then there was one where Mr. Wheeler and Big Earth Heights lived in.
One of them, Redmond's Trailer Park, I believe, was the name of one of them.
And so this is what that assesses at. Now in 2015, that piece of property assesses at over $5 million. And so there has been growth and utilization of these type properties in Blacksburg. Blacksburg, there's a lot of demand for housing, and it is towards the higher end. Now, with Matt's proposal, it's not the 15 years and it's not the 700 to 800,000. It's still 400,000, but that's still 400,000 that we're not going to have over the future to give to our schools. It basically says that the other thing is, if Chris Cuthbert, Joe Smith tries to come up with his own development that's going to be near this piece of property, I'm going to have to get the same type of subsidies to be able to compete with this project, right? If I'm trying to target police officers, teachers to live in my project, I'm going to have to come to you guys and I'm going to have to say, I need 400,000, I need 800,000 from the town because they're already getting 800,000, and then I'm going to need 400,000 from the county. So that's another $1.2 million for me to be able to compete against him. And I know that we don't have to do it for that person, but to me there's a fundamental fairness. If we have done it for one, then how can we then tell somebody with the same type of project that's going to be just down the street, no, we gave them 400,000, but we're not going to give you 400,000. And so there have been some, in my district, you had the New River Village. They're smaller houses, but they're ballparks for a lot of the Christiansburg police officers live in those houses. Court Hall lived in those houses, just built a bigger house or bought a bigger house, but in the New River Village it was starter houses, and a lot of the houses out at Belmont Farms. We're not such a big community that that's not a 10-minute drive to work in Blacksburg for some of the affordable housing. And so when I look at this type of thing, once we start down this path, I'm afraid it's going to be, we're going to be doing this over and over again, and then the next board 10 years from now is going to be dealing with these issues and losing the increases in tax revenues from growth. Do I recognize that Blacksburg doesn't have a good, I do. But for us to start going down this path, I'm just afraid that we're mortgaging our future. And I've said enough, but I think you got a pretty good idea where I'm at.
Anybody have a rebuttal to Mr. Tuck's argument?
To me, this is more palatable than the first suggestions for help. In fact, I think it goes back to a little bit of what I said before when we were talking about it at before the PSA meeting. We're talking about 10 years. We're talking about a little bit of incentive. I would not support what was the first proposal there to us for 15 years. I mean, that's, to me, not acceptable. I think this one with 5 years is a very small amount of money, and I've said over and over again, the smaller the amount of money we offer for incentive, the better it is to me. Not because I don't want affordable housing, I do. I want very much affordable housing. I don't know how affordable this housing is going to be because I don't really know what per unit it's going to be rented for. I think it's probably higher than what the people have to pay living in the trailer park at this point in time. So I really wouldn't be in favor of anything higher than this. I can support it for those reasons. I really can't support anything that would be more than this particular thing.
Okay, Mr. Gray.
Just a couple of little things here. And the first one is that everybody here has got to realize that only about 40% of the homes that these folks are getting ready to build are for folks that are involved.
Oh, what?
The people who are building these houses, only about 40% of those houses are actually built for low-income people. The rest of it is bigger, nicer homes. So that's one thing. Another is the water that is being run in there and overflowing now is going to do just that much more when it gets some nice roofs to run down on. And that's nothing but a fact. We had someone here that lived over there send us pictures, and he showed it just this year running out of his banks. If we don't get them to fix that now, if it's approved and they don't fix it now, then the county's going to be responsible for it later.
Why?
Because we should have had it fixed to start with.
I know, but why
we're going into it knowing that it does it.
Why would we be responsible for paying for it?
Because we've got it financed, and you don't want it to fall down. You don't want it to flood your other houses there that we're up to finance the thing.
But I think, isn't that the town of Blacksburg's responsibility?
No.
Yeah.
It's over into Christiansburg, into the county, if I'm not mistaken. Why else would we have gotten plugged into it?
I don't know why we're plugged into it, but
because county citizens can live in it, and we're plugged into it because county citizens can live in there, and it's also we charge property tax. So
sure, I understand. You know that.
Yeah, but you're right. It's entirely within the town. It's
entirely within the town. So
the town is given, I understand, what, $800,000 or something like that the town has put up in different things.
Yeah, it's about.
I believe that's the point that the
permit fees and waiving of fees and things like that.
Also, I think that we should ask them, or actually we should tell them that they need to have places for the folks who live in these homes, whether it be the small ones or the larger ones. You should have somewhere 3/4 to an acre of land set aside to where they can have some kind of a rec area. You know, there's just about every thing that we've had people come and ask us if they could build a subdivision, we required them to go and set up and have walking trails, to have all kind of different things for the citizens to use. That, I've not heard anything about how much of that we're going to have in these houses. Hopefully there's some there, but it'd be nice to let us know. Well, I've got some other, but I'll just hush at that and let it go.
Comments, Mr. Park, you're here. Maybe you can come forward and clarify a few questions that we may have. One, and I'll let y'all get it, Partisans on my mind. You know, we talk about the average income in Blacksburg, but people understand dollars and cents. So for a one-bedroom apartment with a person making, say, $38,000, where would the rents be on, like a, if you can speak to that, like a one-bedroom, a two-bedroom, and maybe a senior unit with an income level? I think people visualize real dollar amounts, not 40% or 60% of the average, you know, salary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. William Park with Pinnacle Construction, Charlottesville, Virginia. And I'd like to respond to all of the comments that I heard tonight, Mr. Chairman. First of all, to respond to your comment. On the senior units, one-bedroom units, $435, $550. Two-bedroom units, $675 up to $715. On the family units, we are two-bedroom units are $795, and along with that, I've got a short PowerPoint presentation, if you have time for tonight, to answer some of the questions that not only tonight but in the work session, in the prior meetings that we had, that I think would answer a lot of these questions, and then I could respond to what's on the table now and talk a little bit about it if I could. First of all, does that answer your question?
Yes, and but you want to see the quick PowerPoint?
Yeah, I have a question that goes along with this question. When you say those rents, does that include utilities and, you know, like your electric and your, I don't know if it's going to have natural gas or, you know, your garbage, or are those charges included in the rent?
On the senior project, yes. On the family, no, but the utility allowance has been subtracted from the maximum we could charge.
Okay.
So it's taken into account in setting the rent. In the senior projects, what we find is typically when they don't have to pay the bills, they like it better when it's all full service. So we include the water and sewer in those. Now, they still pay the electric, but we include the water and sewer.
But only in the senior?
Correct. And just like any other apartment complex, the tenant, most any other, they're responsible for their utilities. On the family or general occupancy workforce units, we have a formula that we have to go by. We get a utility allowance and we subtract that from the maximum rents that we're able to charge to come up with the net rent that I'm giving you now.
Okay, thank you.
I want to see this quick PowerPoint to answer the questions.
I'm happy to see this PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah, go ahead if you got it, where you can get to answer the questions and things. This is, Mark, I think, a very important
Can I indulge Mark? Can you help him get that PowerPoint up? Thank you, Mark.
Great. This is not affordable housing. There's not one person who can go in and pay $675. Then pay your water and everything else.
Well, you can just peek in his comments.
You're right.
Bedrooms are over $400 a piece in Blacksburg.
Yeah.
So,
William, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Okay.
He'll be right back.
Yeah.
First of all, one of the things I want to talk about is, Mr. Creed, I know last time we had a meeting, and you voiced it again tonight, about the amenities and the site plan and so forth. And this is a site plan we've had all along. What I've done, I've gone back and tried to delineate and show exactly those areas that you had in question. Primary 11-acre site, as you know, we've got 144 units. We do have a community building with a fitness center, gardens, playgrounds, picnic area, and bike racks, and I think you can see them on the plan. Community building with fitness center. We have community gardens in this location. You can see they're oriented up near the senior housing. Even though it's located in the senior housing, the community, all of this is available. The community gardens are not at this time, but the fitness center and community building are for everyone there. Playground and picnic area is in this general area. If you look at that, I think you'd see, you mentioned before, maybe an acre of recreational area where we not only have it there, we have it dispersed throughout. We have a trail system internally which gets us on an accessible route from every unit back to the community center. And at the same time, as you can see, I think this is called the Shenandoah Trail. You all can correct me if it's wrong, but down this Harvard Road, which is where everyone in the trailer park now goes, you come down this area and connect into the trail system for the entire town. So hopefully that answers questions, or you can see on the plan. Now, I apologize on the last go around, I really didn't have it delineated like this. So I think it's important to note, if you look at the trailer park that's there now, of course this is the trailer park, and there really are no community amenities, especially when you compare to what we're putting in. And one of the things I want to compare, this is the housing we're building right here. We built this housing before. So what you see is representative of exactly what we'll be building should we go forward. So compare, and this is the workforce unit, and then compare the workforce unit, if you will, you look at this unit and you compare to what's there now. Additionally, the community center, this is the community center that we'll be building. We've built this on other projects. It's been very well received. If you look at this, we have a community room where we have functions in there for all our tenants, meetings and so forth. And then here's a fitness area in there. So I think as opposed, yes, Ms. Burns.
Is there a fee for this,
No.
or is it just included?
It's included.
Thank you.
Good question. And so before, what you had was rendering, so I brought to you tonight actual photos of what's going to be built as we've built this before. Typical unit interiors, you get a good feel for what this is. This is probably either a 2 or 3 bedroom unit. And so then income limits, well, let me back up a minute. Let me address a couple of things and then we'll get back to income limits for a second. One of the things that's been a little bit frustrating is when I keep hearing this issue about storm water, okay? And we spent a great deal of time on stormwater on this project for rezoning, not for a site plan approval, not to start construction and get a building permit, but essentially we're at a point now where I think we could pull a building permit. And we've had the same conversations or the same statements from the same 2 people every time I've done one of these. Whether I'm at the town, whether I'm here, it's the same exact thing. And to date, I see nothing that supplies any empirical evidence, quantitative data, that shows that anything we're doing is wrong. In fact, we hired one of the top engineering firms in the state, in the region, to do this. We have worked in detail with the town as far as stormwater to make sure, and we have a letter before we got any further, before the town would go through the rezoning or the financial incentives that they went through to review and go through the stormwater calculation ad nauseum. And I'll say in the letter, I'm reading the very first, if you will indulge me, from Balzer & Associates. This is from the town of Blacksburg with Steve Simonis. The engineering department has completed the review of Blacksburg Estate Stormwater Concept Plan. The concept plan is approved. In bold, underline, approved. I don't know what else to say. So I just want to make that very clear. And then it goes on to say, and this is from Coffey Howard, the town engineer, at the end, in addition, this project is reducing its runoff rates to almost half of what existed prior to its development, which will improve the 2-year storm erosion rates and will cause fewer instances of overbank flooding. So I can't make it any clearer that this project, contrary to what I keep hearing, We've had engineers look at it, not only our third-party engineers, but the town, and it is improving both the quantity and the quality of stormwater there. So I'm sorry I get a little emotional about that, but I'm really tired of hearing it. And I've got, and so we got that letter. So I hope that at least addresses that at the time being.
All right, so are you saying that when you make those improvements to the stormwater, is that what I'm hearing? Like when you make those improvements, even though you have greater density, it should handle any runoff, and so people that might be concerned that live outside of the development, they're not going to have runoff onto their property or their streams or whatever.
In fact, it will, Ms. Biggs. It's not should, it will. I mean, we've done all the engineering. Numerous people have looked at it. Because right now, there is no stormwater detention for it. There is no stormwater quality control. And we are now going to be under the more stringent rules that have just been promulgated or put into place back in July. And so we'll probably be the first project in town that's under those new stricter stormwater regulations.
Yeah, they are a lot stricter. I do know that. Yeah.
So I realize it doesn't fall under the purview, I don't think, of the county, it's under the town.
Right, it's under
but
the
I know
town.
you all have concerns about it, and it's been addressed here, so I just wanted to make sure everybody knew what we know. Which
Are you telling us that your company has already went in there and did something to these water drains?
No.
No, not yet.
Well, it was making it sound that way, though.
Well, no, Mr. Creed, I'm not making it sound that way, not at all. I'm saying we have gone through the engineering that if our project is built the way we have it designed, that it will improve the stormwater over what's there now.
But if we had physical proof or snapshot off a picture that come in here to us that these things have run off this year.
You have the plan
Where
for
do we
it.
go?
Well, see, that's what I was trying to get straight. Like, they haven't made their improvements. What
He's not going to make any other improvements. That's what I'm telling you. He says he's right already.
No, what I understand, if I'm wrong,
That's what he said.
that it will be, if the plan goes forward, there will be improvements made to that project. As part of the project. There will be improvements made.
I haven't heard that.
Well, that's what I heard. And
That's what I've heard.
Yes.
Is that true?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You're going to do something to the...
Correct.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a
Yes.
question? When you started talking about affordability, I just started pulling up places to rent in Blacksburg. I found that Chase Woods for $760 for a 2-bedroom apartment. You're charging $745, but they're paying full rate on their taxes, and you're getting $800,000 from incentives from the town, roughly ballpark, and you're asking for 700 plus for us, and the proposal is 400,000. Are you telling me that I mean, there's existing places in Blacksburg that you can rent for the basically exact same price?
Yeah, and it's a good point, Mr. Tuckett. And how long have they been there? How long has this project been there?
This is Chasewood Downs. It's got a swimming pool, an exercise room. There's efficiencies that are cheaper.
Yeah.
They're out by my office, the Arbors, they're $390. Now they're older. My uncle built those in the 1970s.
Sure.
So they're older units. But I guess they're operating without the tax incentives. Are you saying to this board that you can't build affordable housing in Blacksburg unless you get a $1.5 million from the county and the town?
Yes. In this case, so let me finish, let me go through it, and I will make sure we're comparing apples to apples too, because we're not. We're comparing apples to oranges. Now, I'm curious, I'm not familiar with Chase Woods, but again, is that a project that's 2 years old, 20 years old, 10 years old? I mean,
Chase Wood, I would guess, is probably 20 years old.
Okay.
And so, but it's prime rental markets. I'm just pulling up now. The Edge, their apartments are running. They rent per bedroom, and those are the premium apartments. And I guess right now in Blacksburg, they're running about $600 per bedroom, but their bedrooms have their own baths. That's about 1,600 square feet. I guess that's what it was listed on their site.
They're small rooms.
So I don't understand when we've got the rents that are pretty comparable to what you're saying you're going to be charging the folks that could be living at your place could be living here at Chasewood.
No, not, and the Edge is completely apples to oranges. It's a student housing project.
It is a student.
So let me back up a little bit on that. Just discuss. So currently, we're building the highest end thing in the market as far that's not student housing is the Highlands project, which is in your county. And when we built that, when we had it entitled here, probably 4 years ago, we had it entitled to 390 apartments and then some duplexes. When we came to you to do that project, we never asked for any incentive. In fact, we wrote a check for tap fees for $1.3 million, and when it's built, we're going to pay full taxes. But the rent profile, the market that we're charging is totally different, and we have no restrictions on the rent we can charge. Whatever the market can bear, we can do that. When you're looking at an affordable project, we are locked in for a minimum of 30 years that we cannot raise our rents beyond whatever that rent criteria is for that year, which is at 60% of the area median income. So the problem is when we're talking about these units, it's not apples to apples, and that's where the big difference is when we look at this. And if you take a project that was built 20 years ago and try to compare it to what's being built here, then it's not the same project. Does it?
Well, you're saying it doesn't exist. And I'm saying we got to have this. We got to have these tax incentives, but there's places to rent for right at the same price.
Yeah, but Chris, seniors aren't going to live in Chasewood Downs.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, but seniors live out by my office, which is $390 a month at the Arbors.
And when I say that, it's not to be argumentative. I'm just making a statement. We're not comparing apples to apples at this point. Now, granted, let's take that back. Let's go back to the trailer park right here. Well, that's affordable right now, and those rents are in the 300 range, right? And there's a need for them. But you look at that trailer park, and then look at this. There's no way the rents can be, and that's the whole problem with the term affordability.
That's what I'm going to ask.
That's exactly right.
I want to ask you that.
Yeah, that's a good point. So when we're dealing with the tax credit program, the maximum rents we can charge are based on 60% of the area median income.
All right, those tax credits have to do with the federal government, who makes those guidelines.
Yes.
So they're the ones that are saying, okay, that you're going to get grants from in order to build this, because you're willing to abide by the federal guidelines. Is that correct?
Yes, Ms. Perkins, and then they allocate those federal credits to each state housing authority. And in this case, it's the Virginia Housing Authority, and their responsibility is to put together an allocation plan to make sure these credits are distributed across the state to various regions to hit specific income levels.
What do you know what your credits are at this point?
When you say
what you're going to get from them,
as far how much credits, yeah, and this is where the disconnect is. And let me keep moving forward, and I'll answer that question if you will, because the whole issue here is you cannot. The cost to build this is not supported by the incomes that you can get. That's the problem. That's why you have an affordability housing problem, because the cost to build it does not match up with the incomes. This is the same type housing that the Edge is being built. It's no difference. I would argue this quality is just as good, if not better, than what's going into the Edge. But I can't build it. I can't rent this by the bedroom and charge $700 a bedroom for a four-bedroom, which would be $2,800 a unit. And that's what I'm saying. It's not apples to apples, right?
Well, but you're charging for a one-bedroom, you're charging around $600.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And so one bedroom is 900 square feet. You start doing the math, well, that's the equivalent of a three-bedroom. Now that same square footage, the 2,700 square feet, you're going to be generating over $1,800, correct, on the rents.
No, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work, because think about it. If I can use one kitchen for 4 bedrooms, it's a whole lot different than one bedroom with one kitchen with a porch and with the roof and everything. I mean, it just.
Ms. Perkins had a really good question. How much are you planning on getting from the federal government on top of what you're getting from the local incentives?
Okay, so the way this will break down when we're done, the cost for this thing is probably, the total cost for this is going to be somewhere around $18 million. Okay? And from that $18 million, we'll probably get at least $9 million in tax credits.
So $9 million tax credits plus the you're asking for $1.5 million, but right now on the table's $1.2 million.
And I knew that'd send you through the roof. I knew it would, but sorry. Let me keep going with it.
So basically, between tax credits and us, it's halfway paid for, right?
No, it's halfway financed. It's not halfway paid for because we still have to cover the debt service. You have to cover that last $9 million that you're borrowing in debt. And herein lies the problem. I can't charge like the Edge can charge. I can't charge like we're doing over at the Highlands where I can charge whatever the market can bear. All I can charge is at best the maximum that the government allows me to do it. And I'm saying I'm going to do it for 30 years. If I sell the property, the person I sell it to cannot flip it into something else. It has to stay affordable.
But we've got a similar project that didn't get these incentives that's out of Bellevue that they invested millions of dollars. Now, not as much as what you're talking about, but millions of dollars without any incentives.
Yeah, and so
from the local government.
No, you're exactly right, and that's where
except for we did help them with the EDA and it's passed through, and I would be willing to do that for this project.
And we appreciate it. We need it. No, I don't want to stop there, but you're exactly right. So the difference is, because you brought that up before, and the difference between what's going on at Forest Hills, I think it's Forest Hills, the one on Pepper's Ferry.
Yes.
Right, because that's the one you brought up before. And then what we're doing, and not to get down in the weeds, but with the tax credit programs, there's 2 levels of tax credits. There's a 9% tax credit and a 4% tax credit, okay? Over on Pepper's Ferry, they receive the 9% tax credit, which is over twice as many tax credits as we get, okay? So obviously if they get more tax credit, it drives the debt service down to half. But in order to do that, they've got to skew their income levels and rents lower. So the maximum they're charging over there is no higher than 50% income limits, okay? So if you look at that chart, if you look up here at 50, this is the maximum that people can earn to be in theirs, okay? Now what happens, VHDA has changed their application process since they were built 3, 4, 5 years ago. I think that's right, in that time period. So what's happening, the 4% tax credits that are out there, which utilize taxes and bonds, just like you all use when you're building things, what's happened, they were going unused. So what VHDA done is they've changed their application process to try to encourage more use of the 4% credits. Now what happens when I use these 4% credits, the reason they weren't used is because the deals do not work. It doesn't give you enough credits, okay?
Now you're going to still be writing off part of this depreciation as well. Every year you'll be depreciating part.
I have to sell it. Because in order to sell your tax credits, you sell all the losses. So when we sell it, tax credits, interest, and depreciation flow with ownership. Again, not to get into the tax detail, and that's why affordable housing is so hard. This is so doggone complicated. But the long and short of it is, the reason I provided this slide is that anybody that comes in that 60% income limit, anybody that's over 50% over there on Pepper's Ferry, they can't live there. So what happens with the 4% credit, you get less credits, but they allow you to go up to at least 60%. So we can catch that band of people, right, that are in that 50 to 60% range. And we did a lot of market study on the area, which pretty much is your workforce housing. Because the problem is with affordable housing and workforce housing is many times it's so low it really doesn't help the people it needs to help, okay? So what does that mean when you compare Pepper's Ferry to what we're doing here? What are some of the jobs that people work at that they would not be eligible to be at Pepper's Ferry, even though it's a tax credit deal? But it's not the same as our tax credit deal because we're getting half the credits. Then these are examples of some jobs we found locally that would be eligible to live in our project. And of course, people that make less than this are eligible, but they're not eligible to live in a lot of the affordable housing that you currently have around here that are tax credit deals. And the other problem is there is no, when people talk about affordable housing, we get bogged down in Section 8 housing and public housing and all that. Our project has no rental assistance attached to it. So the people that live there, they have to work and they have to pay the rent. And what's happening is you have a gap of people here that are in that 50 to 60% range that you're not servicing and you can't service. And the reason if we went for the 9% credit, we would be like Pepper's Ferry. We would be below the 50% range, and we couldn't house the people where that gap is.
But right now, if you look, most homes are two-income families at this point in time in Montgomery County. So if you have two incomes, you're not going to be eligible for your housing.
But you'd be surprised how many that aren't. I mean, we get this all the time. Over the years we've managed, it's not unusual to have the divorced mother that has 2 kids, the divorced mother that has 3 kids. They can't make ends meet, even if they're making $40,000, but those kids are people. So they count as a person, and that's what happens so many times. So I'm just telling you, because we've already done a market study on the area, and that's what we found with the eligible housing people that are here, and that's a gap that's not being funded right now. And I didn't mean to get down in the weeds like this tonight, but you're asking good questions, so that's the only way I can go about doing, trying to explain it to you.
Okay, I think we can probably debate this all night and the next night. If it's some specific questions that we need for Mr. Park to answer before we try to wrap this up. Exactly. If you have any specific questions like that would take a short answer, not for you to get down in the weeds again, so to speak. I think from looking at the board, we were good, right? Everybody's good at this point.
I don't know. Mr. Chair, the one question I'd just like to ask, I know that there's been a lot of numbers talked about tonight.
But you got the motion was specific.
Yeah, he's got a motion.
It was it 420?
412.
12, excuse me, I apologize.
412, 118,000. I know that number's not, what does that do with, can you still move forward with the project with that?
What's got to happen is we've got to make sure interest rates don't rise a bit, and we've got no room to lower rates is what happens. So, certainly every little bit's going to help, just like it did with the town. Will that get us there? It's the best we can do till we get to underwriting and the banks start underwriting and the syndicators start underwriting. It's certainly not where we wanted to be, but at this point, if that's the wishes of the board, then that's what we'll go by.
Yes.
If you do go that route.
Yeah, 412, 118. That's what's your motion recommended, right?
That's over 10 years.
Over 10 years.
But it goes down.
After year 5.
After year 5, it goes down 20% each year to year 10, and there's no tax incentives on year 10.
Year 10 and after, that's correct.
Okay, we have a motion and we're in discussion now. Any more questions for Mr. Park? If not, you don't have to stand it.
If so, I'll be glad to come back after the answer, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
I would just like to thank the chair for the extensive debate on this issue. I do think it's an important issue, and I appreciate the chair giving each person time.
There was only one other question I had.
Go ahead.
How much are you charging for a 1-bedroom apartment in your Highland?
But over in the work, not in the senior, but in the other Highland.
No, in
the project on Roanoke Road.
Yeah, the other project.
What is a 1-bedroom? Over $900.
Okay, so in order to have this be quote unquote affordable, or build this at a cheaper rate than what you're building there, that's why you went to the affordable.
Correct.
Well,
and I think there's a tension here. Is that I think Mr. Park's hitting at that, is that this is workforce housing. It's not affordable housing.
It's not really affordable.
Well, it is for people for people in there, and I can think of people at Virginia Tech, professionals at Virginia Tech, staff, janitors, stuff like that, who wouldn't be able to live, as Mr. Park pointed out, in Bellevue, but could work there, and they certainly can't afford to live elsewhere in Blacksburg as well. So
that's for sure.
The thing I'm struggling with, we didn't have to supply the poorest to the poor, but we're having to. Never mind. Strike it. I apologize, Mr. Chair.
And you don't have an estimate of how much money you're going to get from all these various sources at this point in time.
It's a moving target, as all, you know, until you go to close. But sure, we put together a budget, but I don't know what the interest rate is when we close. I don't know exactly what I mean, even though we price things out, as you all know, prices change.
Sure.
So we're trying to work with what we have at this point in time, which is all we can do.
Well, this may be workforce, but it's certainly not what the people who are living there can afford.
Yeah, which is interesting, which is why it's so important before we start and understand, and looking back at it, I'm kind of wondering where I am anyway, but the project searched us out. We didn't search the project out, more or less. And then one of the things we looked at when we met with the owners is, one of the things we can't do is remove affordable housing to build affordable housing, even if it's a different affordable housing range. So one of the things we made clear with the owners is anybody who's in that particular area, they need to relocate them over to the other side or relocate them somewhere. And that's what we spent a considerable amount of time with, and the owners did, with the town, especially given that my understanding is most of them are 30-day leases. So they put together a fairly extensive plan on how to move them. Is it perfect? Probably isn't. It probably isn't, but I know they have put forth a considerable amount of effort, and they went through a whole lot of work with the town to make the town feel like they did the best they could.
Okay. All right. So you have to really deal with the people who are the owners of the land?
Yeah.
So you're just the contractor?
No, we're the owner.
You're the owner?
We're the owner of the proposed development, not the balance of the trailer park.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
They continue to own it.
So you are the owners for the new part?
Correct.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Well,
is that any other questions?
That's good. Well, you guys ready for the question?
I'm ready for the question. Now,
maybe we should.
We have a motion. Would you restate your motion, Matt? And
let me just pull up my.
And if you remember your second.
Yeah, I'll try to remember that.
Okay. So, what my initial motion was a 10-year total grant not to exceed $412,118 with a full 100% grant for years 1 through 5 not to exceed $58,874 per year, and then to decrease that amount by 20% over the next 5 years for years 6 through 10, so that you get down to 0% or no grant for year 10. And it caps the valuation of the property as well at $7.2 million.
You restate your second.
So that's the cap, right?
Yeah, and
that's the cap for the valuation of the property.
Yes, absolutely.
So if we have growth that goes beyond that, then we would get money.
Matt, what was the annual cap?
58,875.
58,874.
58,874.
Okay.
Yes.
And I seconded that motion. Right.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Is it any further discussion? Seeing none, would the clerk please call roll?
Ms. Biggs?
I'm going to vote in favor of it, and I think it was an effort to reach some kind of compromise. And I also will state that if we have people out there that are still concerned about the stormwater part of this, that I would be happy to rediscuss that with the town, as I previously did at a liaison breakfast.
Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Mr. Tuck?
I cannot support a project that says that they have to have $10.2 million in government subsidies to be able to float, and it's an $18 million project when we've got the same rents in the same town within a half a mile or a quarter of a mile.
Mr. Creed?
No.
Mr. King?
No.
Mr. Gabriel?
Yes.
Chair Brown?
Yes.
4 ayes, 3 no.
Now you understand, I told you that I would vote for something that was lower, but not something that was high, right?
Yeah. You think that was tough? Wait till we get to new business, establishing, establishing and advertise,
Oh, boy.
establish and advertise real estate tax rate and FY 2016 budget.
Okay, where are we?
Resolution, we down under.
Okay, we did that. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
But I forgot to tell him.
Okay.
Chair, move that we advertise at .89.
We have a motion.
I second the
0.89
89 cents.
and a second with the. Any discussion?
Well, we have to add the second part of that
Yeah.
resolution, and that will be for an advertised budget of $175,976,069, right? That ties to the 89.
Okay, he said 89, and you want to restate it or whatever with the
Well, he
this
calls it.
budget.
Yeah,
The
oh,
same
yeah,
number.
just put the number in.
Put the number in.
Put the number in what?
Right.
The budget number.
178.
What do you?
Yeah, it's times 1755.
$178.
It's 175,975,069.
No.
Is that the one?
No, it's the
No, it's still
175.
89 cents.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yeah.
take-
No, the total budget number.
The
Yeah,
total
you read
budget
that
is
one.
Oh, I
175
thought it was reading this one.
million
I'm sorry.
$976,069.
That's the one.
That's it.
That's the right number, right?
Second.
And that's the second.
Is that the right number?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we got the right number.
Is that actual or is
I believe
that?
there was a motion and Ms. Biggs seconded it.
Okay. Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Perkins?
I really, I will support the 89, but I'll tell you, my druthers are that if we really needed another penny, I just don't understand why we're not doing it, but nevertheless, 89 cents is okay. It's not what I really wanted to suggest, but anyway, yes.
Mr. Tuck?
Yes. Aye.
Mr. Gabriel?
No.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Chair Brown?
Aye.
6 ayes, 1 no.
Ready for 89 cents.
Subject B, Commissioner of Revenue Transfer and Special Contingencies.
Move approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
This is on the contingency.
Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Mr. Gabriel?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Chair Brown?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Subject C, Proclamation Child Abuse Prevention Month, April 2015. This is a proclamation declaring.
So moved.
Second.
Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Gabriel?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Chair Brown?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Proclaim April 1 through April 7, 2015 as Local Government Education Week.
So moved.
Second.
Would the clerk please call the roll? I don't think it'd be any discussion.
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Mr. Gabriel?
Aye.
Chair Brown?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Subject E, Proclamation March is American Red Cross Month.
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Mr. Gabriel? Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Chair Brown?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Resolution recognizing Day Spring Christian Academy Varsity Girls Basketball Team National Championship.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a
Second.
second. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Ms. Perkins? Mr. Tuck? Mr. Gabriel? Mr. Creed? Mr. King?
This is Diet Coke,
After all that, now we're ready for the county attorney's
No,
report.
we've got to add
we got to add
tab
the
A.
addendum.
Yeah,
Okay.
the addendum is tab A. I'll move it. That's the Chantel easement.
Have a motion and a second on Chantel easement. Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Mr. Tuck? Mr. Gabriel?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Chair Brown?
Aye.
So
Now, Mr. Attorney, we're ready for your report. Out of respect, I was going to say, who was going to be here to look at it? County Administrator's report.
I had a list, but I forgot what I was going to say when Ms. Perkins said aye a while ago, so I'm no report this evening.
I scared it out of him.
Scared him straight. Okay, Supervisor. Okay, go ahead.
I will back up for one thing. Since the board has approved advertising the tax rate and budget this evening, we don't have a need for a budget work session before the PSA meeting on April 6th unless the board wants to have one. So we'll certainly leave that up to y'all, but
April
6th. No, thank you. Okay.
You're not going to get any volunteers here.
Okay. Well, just wanted to make that clear, so we'll take that off the calendar. Now I'm done, I'm sorry.
Okay, Mr. Gabriel.
Just two very quick things, I think. First of all, Chairman Brown and I were very fortunate to get a sneak peek of the new branding initiative from the tourism thing, and we won't spoil anything, but it looked great. And I'm attending the tourism board on Thursday, where it'll be revealed to them, and then they're going to come visit us as well as the two town councils and show it to us soon. So look out for that. The other thing is, I was wondering if I might ask staff and get all of your support to just look into something. Is that I had someone at an event out in the county bring my attention, and they asked me about food trucks and whether we had any policies in place for food trucks at events outside of town limits. I know the towns themselves are dealing with them in their own ways. And I talked to Craig, and Craig got back and said basically no, we don't have anything on the books. So I wanted to ask the staff that they could look into creating some guidelines for how food trucks, because it would involve perhaps planning department, planning commission, might also involve the health and safety
and commissioner
and the health commissioner and stuff like that. So it's going to be a bunch of different things that we'll have to bring together. So I'd like to at least start that process.
Would we want to refer that to the planning commission?
I don't know what the best place to start it at, so that's why I wanted to kind of look to the staff. It might start there, or it might start with an ordinance. I don't know.
Yeah, I think we need to look at it. If it involves changing the zoning or zoning ordinance, then it would have to go through the commission. But maybe we need to first see
kind of a general overview first of what's involved.
The health department's involved in some way,
because they still have to go through the health department inspection.
Yeah. Correct.
Health department have to give it to.
Yeah.
Right.
No.
They have to.
I'm sure there's model legislation out there.
But we got to be real careful on that and make sure it doesn't affect any of our little leagues
charitable
that's got things going on to try to make them money to get to go to so-and-so or whatever it may be.
I know the rescue squad's got a wagon that they pull around, and so
That's good.
A lot to think about.
Yeah, unintended consequences.
They say that's the growingest segment of restaurants that there is just that. I just don't want to take away from our kids.
No, I think that's fine. I think that, but this is
part of the reason to look into
this is part of the reason to look into it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Be glad to.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Mr. Green.
No report.
Mr. King.
I got a lot.
Ms. Biggs.
I just want to express from the Library Board of Trustees, they were very excited to have our county so well represented. And of course, we did tell them you were at the Planning Commission, but we had everyone there. We missed you, Mr. King, but I know that you support libraries. But everyone came, and Christiansburg had a nice turnout, but no one came from the town of Blacksburg, so that was a little bit disappointing. But yeah, it was a very nice reception.
So,
Mr. Creed eat enough cupcakes to...
But it was really good. I could have eaten it.
Okay, Supervisor Perkins.
I don't have a really good report, but the thing I wanted to say is thank you all very much for letting us, and thank you, Bill, for letting us have a good discussion with regard to Fieldstone. I was sorry that it was unavoidable for me to miss the last meeting, and so I appreciate your moving the table to tonight so that I could participate in what's going on. So thank you very much for that, and that's about it. These have been two really difficult weeks, but we are moving on, and I will have MPO and the PDC, even though it's changed its name, and a couple more things this week to report on the next time. But I'm happy that we did get the tax rate, and we did settle in what we could do for Fieldstone. So I think that was two big issues for us this evening, and we talked about them extensively. So, and I do appreciate Mr. Park being here so he could explain some of the things that we didn't understand. So thank you.
Okay, Mr. Tuck.
Just like to brag on our Emily Gibson, our new planning director. She is doing an outstanding job. She's very well respected by the Planning Commission. She's energetic. She's well prepared, and we are taking up the issue of bees. And so it will be coming up bees, if you remember. And that's my report. The Planning Commission is taking up the issue of bees. That was requested by our board.
Well, other than Vice Chair Biggs and I've been knee-deep in interviews, I think we got 4 more to do.
Yeah.
2 tomorrow and 2 Wednesday.
Yeah.
Then I guess we move into liaison with the school, and
that's on Thursday.
And if it's anything, I'll say to this board, if it's anything that when we meet on Monday with the school board, something that you'd like for us to put on the agenda for discussion, please shoot Mr. Meadows an email so as he and Brenda talk about the agenda for that meeting, that we'll make sure that whatever you guys want on there is included. Other than that, yeah, it's almost 11 o'clock. I might have to need a note to get home or something, you know. A note to get in.
My wife said the meeting was over at 8 o'clock. I don't know what.
Yeah, you're so mean.
You be